Chapter 204. The environment and conditions of the wanderers' residential area could not be compared with those of the Longboat tribe. Yang Sui looked around at the dilapidated wooden houses. There were many big cracks between the logs. He seriously doubted whether he would be frozen to death if he lived there. However, it was better to be frozen to death than to be killed. Xiao Xian took Yang Sui to the wooden house of Yan Zhi and his brother. Yan Zhuo and Jiao Wu had gone out to exchange animal skins and had not yet returned. Yan Zhi was repairing the wooden house in the snow. Yan Zhi and his brothers were inevitably suspicious and wary of Yang Sui. If it were not for Xiao Xian, they would not have let Yang Sui in. "You go in first. I will help you repair the wooden house," Xiao Xian said to Yang Sui. "Okay." Yang Sui immediately went into the house. It was too cold outside. He did not want to stay outside and be frozen. Many of the wood brought back by Yan Zhi had not been chopped. Xiao Xian chopped it with a knife and handed it to Yan Zhi. Yan Zhi looked at the cross-section of the wood. It was much smoother than the wood they chopped. It could be seen how fast the knife chopped. This was the power of a totem warrior. Thinking that he would also have such power, Yan Zhi's heart was burning. After the wooden house was strengthened and repaired, Yan Zhuo and Jiao Wu also came back with things. However, they did not come back directly with animal skins. Instead, they wrapped the animal skins with a layer of hay. It looked like they were going to use the hay to make a bed or light a fire. This method was more covert and cautious. It would not attract attention. After all, the two suddenly came back with so many animal skins. It seemed strange. As soon as they entered the house, Xiao Xian found that Jiao Wu and the others' attitudes towards Yang Sui were very subtle. They were a little cautious. However, compared to the other two emotions, they were much less. When Xiao Xian and Yan Zhi entered the house, Yang Sui was bragging about his trip. After exaggerating and embellishing, Jiao Wu was stunned. Even Yan Zhuo and Yan Zhen were listening with great interest. Although he knew that Yang Sui's words were not completely true, what he said was indeed very attractive. Seeing Xiao Xian come in, Jiao Wu, who was the most impatient one, hurriedly asked Xiao Xian. Yang Sui said that he is the candidate of the shaman of their tribe. "Is it true?" Xiao Xian looked at Yang Sui. Seeing that Yang Sui didn't mind saying it out loud, he nodded and said, "Yes." Once they got Xiao Xian's confirmation, they looked at Yang Sui even more obviously. Shaman, the shaman of an entire tribe. Although he was only a candidate now, he must be a very powerful person to be chosen as a candidate. After living in the Longboat tribe for so many years, Yan Zhi and the others had never seen any shamans, even the shamans of the Longboat tribe. Xiao Xian finally understood why these people were so cautious around Yang Sui. Perhaps Yang Sui knew the psychology and character of Jiao Wu and the others, so he told them his identity. In this way, he could stay here safely. Many people had a kind of awe for shamans. Yan Zhi and the others belonged to this category, probably because the status of shamans in the Longboat tribe was very high. But for the wanderers around the Rain tribe, their attitude was different. In a tribe that could burn a shaman to death after he failed to pray for rain, the status of shamans was far lower than that of other tribes. Of course, if a shaman could pray for rain successfully, his status would naturally rise a lot. "By the way, brother, when Yan Zhuo and I went to exchange for animal skins, we heard that another wanderer was killed," Jiao Wu said with a serious face. "I heard that they were killed when they went to exchange for food, and their bodies were directly thrown into the river." Yan Zhuo also told what he had heard. "Who killed them? People of the Longboat tribe?" Yang Sui asked doubtfully. "No," Yan Zhi shook his head, "it was a traveling team. Every year, many wanderers die in the hands of travelers. The Longboat tribe only allows wanderers to live here. As long as they don't make a big fuss, they don't care. Besides, they don't want too many wanderers to live next to their tribe." Yan Ji explained calmly. He had already seen this many times and was used to it. In fact, not only in the Longboat tribe, but also in every tribe, the number of wanderers around was always stable and would not exceed the range that the local tribe could accept. And for the private disputes and killings, the people of the tribe acquiesced. If someone helped them to clean up, they would naturally be happy to watch the fun. When Yan Zhuo and Jiao Wu went out to exchange animal skins, they were very cautious. They even used hay as a cover. In addition to guarding against other wanderers in the wanderer area, they also guarded against the wanderers who temporarily stayed in the Longboat tribe. Those wanderers were all totem warriors. If they really caused trouble, they would be more dangerous than the wanderers in the wanderer area. It's them. Yang Sui looked at Xiao Xian. I used to think that those people were not good people. They gathered together to discuss something. It turns out that they were going to kill people. Xiao Xian recalled that when he and Yang Sui got off the boat, they met those people. It should be when they returned to the boat after killing the wanderers. The atmosphere in the room was a little dignified. Be careful these days. When the weather gets better, we will leave. Xiao Xian said. The weather here was different from that of the Yanjiao tribe on the other side of the river. It did not snow all the time in winter. Most of the time, it was sunny. Even heavy snow was rare. Hearing Xiao Xian's words, Yan Ji and the others were looking forward to it. This time, they would really leave here. They would go back to the tribe, instead of being deceived to go to an unknown place. Yang Sui, when will the heavy snow come? Xiao Xian asked. It should be in the evening. Wait, let me see. Yang Sui opened the window a little and looked at the sky. Yan Ji and the others did not dare to make a sound, for fear of disturbing the candidate of the shaman. At the same time, they thought that he was indeed a candidate of the shaman. He could even predict the weather. Half a minute later, Yang Sui closed the window. Before it gets dark, there will be heavy snow. It will be lighter tomorrow morning, but it will continue to snow heavily. About 3 days later, the snow will stop completely. There will be several sunny days, but I can't predict the future. No matter what the future would be like, at least Yang Sui had predicted the recent weather, and he was more accurate than the shaman of the Longboat tribe. Seeing the admiration in the eyes of Yan Ji and the others, Yang Sui was proud again. I am the first candidate of the shaman. You are amazing. Jiao Wu was a person who easily showed his emotions, so he immediately began to praise him. If it were the shaman of the Yanjiao tribe here, perhaps these people would directly kneel down and worship him. Xiao Xian thought that the shaman was good at deceiving people. While he was thinking, Xiao Xian heard an eagle cry. The sound was not loud, so Yan Ji and the others could not hear it. However, Yang Sui, who was proudly bragging to Jiao Wu, paused and looked outside. Jiao Wu, go out and drag in the things that have fallen on the ground outside. Xiao Xian said. Things that have fallen on the ground? What are they? Jiao Wu walked out of the door in confusion and looked around. The surrounding families had already known that there would be heavy snow in the past 2 days, so they had also repaired their houses. Now everyone closed their doors and windows and stayed at home. The ground and the roof were all white. I didn't see anything. Jiao Wu muttered. He looked around again and again, trying to discern if there was anything suspicious on the ground, if it was the thing Xiao Xian wanted to drag into the house. However, other than snow, there was nothing. Yan Ji and the others in the house were also confused. What had fallen outside? Just when they were about to ask Xiao Xian, Yan Ji heard a bang outside. What's wrong? Yan Ji asked Jiao Wu outside. Jiao Wu pushed the door open and said to the people in the house, wild, 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 wild boar. Just now, Jiao Wu was looking around and did not pay attention to the sky. When he heard the sound coming from the sky, he looked up and saw a big bird swooping down quickly. Jiao Wu's first thought was to run away. However, when he took 2 steps, he felt something falling from the sky and falling beside him. He turned his head and saw a wild boar. It was quite big. Looking at the sky again, the eagle had flown high again and soon disappeared from Jiao Wu's sight. Looking at the dead but still warm wild boar on the ground, Jiao Wu could not make a decision. He could only ask the people in the house. Hearing Jiao Wu's words, Yan Ji and the others were also confused. Wild boar? How could there be a wild boar? That's it. Drag it in. Before Xiao Xian said anything, Yang Sui said impatiently. He was hungry now. But Yan Ji and the others were worried that the wild boar outside was someone else's prey. Snatching prey would lead to a fight. They did not want to have a conflict with others now. Because of the totem, they had attracted a lot of attention. Even the Longboat tribe had noticed them. The Longboat tribe allowed wanderers to live here, but totem warriors were absolutely not allowed. If Jiao Wu and his brother were totem warriors, they would be driven out immediately. In winter, it was so cold and dangerous. If they were driven out, they would have no chance to survive. They could only endure and control the little power in their bodies. Fortunately, after that day, the totem did not appear again. It was right to be cautious, but wild boar. What a good food. Right at the door. They hesitated. Jiao Wu glanced at the wild boar on the ground outside and then looked at Xiao Xian. Drag it in. It's our prey. Xiao Xian said. Since Xiao Xian said so, Jiao Wu immediately dragged the wild boar in. Peel it. Yan Zhuo said to his wife and then went out. I'll clean up the blood outside. Yan Ji also opened the window and carefully looked around. Living in the wanderer area, they had to be very careful. After all, they were not strong enough. Xiao Xian originally wanted to leave and go to the nearby mountains, but Cha-Cha had already caught the wild boar. Cha-Cha threw away the prey and ran away. It was not willing to stay in the Longboat tribe. It was happy in the forest. During dinner, Xiao Xian told Yan Ji and the others about Cha-Cha, so that they could be mentally prepared. After leaving the Longboat tribe, they would meet Cha-Cha sooner or later. Today, Yan Ji and the others were surprised one after another. They were excited all night. Xiao Xian was also thinking about the next plan. Only Yang Sui was still sleeping like a pig. As Yang Sui said, before dark, the snow suddenly became heavier. Large snowflakes fell. After a night, there was a layer of snow outside. When they stepped on it, the snow reached their ankles. Such snow and thickness were nothing in the Yanjiao tribe, but here, it was different. Heavy snow was not common here. Sometimes, heavy snow could not be seen for several years. When they got up in the morning, the snow was much lighter, but there were still thick clouds in the sky. Yan Ji and the others now completely believed in Yang Sui's ability. According to Yang Sui's words yesterday, the snow would be lighter in the morning, but after a while, heavy snow would fall again. They had to prepare more things before the snow fell. They also had to prepare more water, food and other things. Xiao Xian intended to take a stroll in the nearby forest to see if he could hunt some prey. Yesterday's wild boar had already been eaten by several people. It had to be said that the people of the Flaming Horns tribe had a large appetite. Even if they had not fully awakened their totemic power, Yan Ji and the others, including Yan Zhuo's wife Yan Zhen, ate a lot. Yan Ji wanted to save some food, but was stopped by Xiao Xian. They had to take care of their bodies these days. After they recovered, they could continue their journey as soon as possible. Yan Zhuo and Jiao Wu planned to exchange for some animal skins. After they heard that wanderers were killed, they became more careful. They did not exchange all the animal skins, but planned to exchange them in several batches. Otherwise, the things Xiao Xian gave him could be exchanged for too many animal skins. If he brought them back, it would be too eye-catching. He didn't even get a pile of hay back home. Except for Yang Sui, the others had finished their work and were about to go out. At this time, someone suddenly ran over. Xiao Xian had seen the person before. When he met Jiao Wu was quarreling with someone. This person was He, the one who chased after them. "What's wrong, He?" Yanji asked. Jiao Wu, Yanji, quickly find a place to hide. Or, go to Mu Qian and ask her for help. He's voice was urgent. What happened? Jiao Wu asked. Although he quarreled with He and the others yesterday, he just could not help it. They had a good relationship. They could live better together. Did you go to exchange for animal skins yesterday? He asked. Yes. Yanji did not hide this. Did you bring the jades there? I heard that the person who traded with you told the travelers about this matter. I think those people might do something bad to you. Leave quickly. Jade? Before Jiao Wu said anything, Yanzhua could not help but exclaim. Because jade was more precious than water moonstones and shell coins, for the sake of safety, Jiao Wu and Yanzhua did not intend to take out the jade. However, when Yanzhua was exchanging animal skins, he met a good friend who worked on the same ship as him. Yesterday, when Yanzhua was taking out shell coins, that person saw the jade. Yanzhua asked him to keep it a secret. He trusted this friend. After all, they had helped each other a lot and had known each other for many years. At that time, that person also promised not to tell others. But now, was it him or not? He, thank you. Yanji said. Well, you should go to Mu Qian. It's snowing now. It's difficult to survive. Go to Mu Qian and ask her to help you. Yanji did not want to bother Mu Qian. He decided to leave here first to avoid the snow. It's too late. Xiao Xian said. What? Yanji was thinking about where to hide. When he heard Xiao Xian's words, he did not respond immediately. Xiao Xian looked in one direction. On the other side, a group of people wearing thick animal skins was coming over. Chapter 205. There were more than 10 people coming over. Looking at their clothes, they knew they were not from the Wanderers area. Even if they didn't wear thick animal skins, they could tell from the way they walked. People in the Wanderers area were either timid or very cautious. They were always afraid of provoking someone or getting into trouble, but the travelers were not. Looking at the people striding towards them, He, who came to inform them, shrank his neck. He didn't expect these people to come so soon. Yanji, go and find Mu Qian. Hurry up, maybe you can stop them, or it will be too late. He said anxiously. He had lived in this place since he was a child. Later, he got to know Jiao Wu and his brothers and became familiar with them. They formed a group and supported each other. Although many people who grew up with him had passed away, at least they could live until today. He cherished these friends very much. In terms of benefits, Yanji and the others' fighting strength was above average in the Wanderers area. With them, the strength of the small group could be improved. But if these travelers came to trouble them today, they would be miserable. Seeing Yanji was still unwilling, He said, how about I go to the Longboat tribe to find her? No need, and now the Longboat tribe has closed the gate. Yanji said. It was the rule of the Longboat tribe to close the gate during the heavy snow. They were worried that people outside would sneak into the Longboat tribe's habitat because they couldn't bear the heavy snow. So when the weather was bad, the Longboat tribe would close the gate. They wouldn't let people get close to the land border. Anyone who approached the tribe's habitat except for the gate would be attacked by the patrolling warriors. With the strength of the Wanderers, they couldn't stand it. Maybe they would be shot by spears or arrows before they could say what they wanted. Then let's run away. He pulled Yanji and wanted to run away, but he didn't move. He pulled him again, but he still didn't move. In fact, When Yan Ji saw the aggressive travelers, his first thought was to avoid them, escape from here, and find a place to hide. They had encountered similar things before. Except for one time when Mu Qian happened to encounter them, they left the wanderer area to find a place to hide, and came back after the travelers left. But now, Xiao Xian didn't move. From the looks of it, he had no intention of leaving. Yan Ji naturally would not leave Xiao Xian alone. Right now, Xiao Xian was their only hope. Even if they lost their lives here, they couldn't let anything happen to Xiao Xian. Yan Ji moved his sight from Xiao Xian to Yang Sui, who was standing in the room and looking outside. He found that this candidate did not seem to be in a hurry. Could it be that they had the confidence to deal with that group of travelers? Yes, Xiao Xian was a totem warrior, and Yang Sui was the future shaman of the Rain tribe. Those travelers should be careful. In most cases, travelers would not offend the totem warriors and shamans of the tribe. He saw that Yan Ji didn't move, so he turned to pull Jiao Wu. He found that Jiao Wu also stood there and didn't leave. He looked at Yan Zhua and his wife, who were about to pack up and run away, but put down their things. They also didn't intend to leave. Jiao Wu didn't think as much as his brother. He was not so smart. He saw that Xiao Xian didn't move and his brother didn't leave, so he naturally wouldn't run away. He you leave first. Yan Ji said to He. Those people were obviously coming for them. He was already very loyal to them by coming to inform them. If he stayed, he would only be affected. He didn't understand why these people didn't want to find help or run away when they knew that the travelers were coming for them. Did they want to die? He anxiously scratched his head and hurriedly ran away. I'll find help. He didn't mean to find help in the Longboat tribe. The Longboat tribe was closed by the heavy snow, so he naturally wouldn't go there to seek death. He just wanted to find some wanderers who had a good relationship with him to see if they could help. Usually, they were quite united. As more than 10 travelers came closer and closer, the people who were carefully paying attention to them were sure that they weren't the target. They immediately felt relieved. As long as they didn't come for trouble, it was fine. Needless to say, the expressions of the people who came quickly told everyone, I'm here to find trouble and kill people. After seeing the people walking in front, Yang Sui whispered to Xiao Xian, they are the people we saw when we got off the boat yesterday. That was to say, these people were very likely to be the murderers who killed wanderers yesterday. They could kill 1 or 2 wanderers yesterday, so they could kill 4 or 5 today. As long as they didn't make a big fuss and didn't destroy the wanderers' area, the Longboat tribe wouldn't care. Xiao Xian had seen the leader yesterday, but in less than a day, he had forgotten Xiao Xian. Probably in his heart, he didn't take Xiao Xian seriously at all. He wouldn't spend much time to remember insignificant people. The leader walked to the front of the cabin and glanced at the people standing at the door. He was surprised that these people didn't run away when they saw them. They also sent people to guard the nearby intersections. It seemed that they didn't need to. Who is Yan Zhua? The leader asked. His eyes were like a knife as he glanced at them one by one. In his eyes, these people were all the same. However, when he saw the animal skin clothes that Yan Ji and the others were wearing, his eyes lit up. He didn't take a fancy to those animal skins. Those animal skins were not good enough for him. Now the animal skins that Yan Ji and the others were wearing were exchanged by Yan Zhua and Jiao Wu yesterday. Because it was cold, they all wore thicker animal skins. As Xiao Xian said, they had to take care of their bodies. They couldn't get sick so that they could continue their journey. Under Xiao Xian's instructions, each of them wore 1 or 2 more animal skins. People in the Wanderers area rarely wore so many animal skins at once. Moreover, these animal skins were not worn out. This also confirmed the news that the travelers had heard. Hearing the man's question, Yan Ji didn't move. Xiao Xian also didn't move. Only Jiao Wu, who was confused and couldn't help glancing at Yan Zhua. That man was also sensitive. He caught Jiao Wu's little movement and looked at Yan Zhuo standing next to him with an evil smile. Are you Yan Zhuo? I lost a few pieces of jade yesterday. I exchanged them with the Mang tribe. Who would have thought that I would lose them when I got off the boat? I heard that you picked up my jade, right? The man's story was too fake. Moreover, when he said it, he had an expression that said, I am here to rob you. When Yan Zhuo was asked to look for him, he already knew who the informant was. He guarded against wanderers and travelers, but he was betrayed by his own people again. This time, it was not a swindler, but a person who grew up with him and was regarded as a good brother. This made Yan Zhuo feel very uncomfortable. Moreover, this time, because of him, everyone was dragged into this trouble. Of course, he would never admit to the matter of the jade. I didn't pick up any jade. Yan Zhuo said. No. The man stared at Yan Zhuo like a sharp knife, but someone said that you picked it up. Otherwise, how did you exchange for so many animal skins? As the man spoke, his voice became louder and louder. There were even some totem patterns on his face. The wanderers who were hiding at home and listening outside were also puzzled when they heard this. Why did Yan Zhi suddenly have so many animal skins? Did he really pick up something good? The leader of the travelers was an intermediate totem warrior. When an intermediate totem warrior faced ordinary people, if he used his totem power, it would bring a lot of pressure to ordinary people. However, when the man looked at Yan Zhuo, Xiao Xian stood in front of Yan Zhuo. I don't know who you heard it from, Xiao Xian said, the thing that Yan Zhuo used to exchange for the animal skin was given to him by me. Seeing that someone actually stood up for Yan Zhuo, a trace of anger flashed through that person's heart. But after hearing Xiao Xian's words, that person's heart was filled with joy. He was originally puzzled about the origin of the jade, and wanted to investigate from Yan Zhuo. But now that he knew, it saved him a lot of effort. Looking at the young man standing in front of Yan Zhuo, the man thought for a while and felt that there was nothing special about him. His clothes were not much better than those wanderers, and he looked very young. Young people were full of vigor. A greedy look appeared in the man's eyes. His smile deepened, and with a hint of arrogance, he said, Oh, so you stole my jade. Yan Zhuo and Jiao Wu were about to say something, but Xiao Xian raised his hand to stop them. He took 3 steps forward and walked in front of the man. As a traveler, he had seen a lot and experienced a lot. He didn't know how many times he had been stimulated between life and death. His intuition was sharper than many people. With Xiao Xian's 3 steps closer, everyone suddenly felt a chill on their backs. Especially the man who was facing Xiao Xian. His arrogant smile disappeared. He felt that his hair stood up. He looked at Xiao Xian with vigilance. Totem warrior? The man said in surprise. He could only judge that the man in front of him was a totem warrior. As for what level he was at, he couldn't tell. After taking 2 deep breaths and suppressing the bewilderment in his heart, the man moved his neck, dispelling the strange trembling from before. His sturdy arms swung twice, and his robust body seemed to be full of strength. When he swung his arms, the large stone hammer in his hand highlighted his strength even more. There were still traces of dried blood on the stone hammer, causing the hearts of those who saw it to skip a beat. The blood on it should be from the wanderers who were killed yesterday. Which tribe are you from? The man asked. Because he often took people everywhere, he was used to speaking with coercion. Xiao Xian didn't show any expression to the man's coercion. He said gently, Yanjiao tribe, Xiao Xian. Yanjiao tribe? The man repeated the name of the tribe that Xiao Xian said. He tried hard to find it in his memory, but couldn't find it. He looked at the man beside him. The man beside him shook his head. He hadn't heard of it either. This tribe that he had never heard of must be a small tribe in some corner. He didn't need to care about it. Travelers wouldn't easily offend people and shamans from tribes, but that was only limited to middle-large tribes. They wouldn't be afraid of small tribes. Even though many of them came from small tribes, they still looked at other small tribes with contempt. Oh, Xiao Xian from the Yanjiao tribe. What a pity. I'm afraid you can't go back. The man said this with a strange ferocity. He really didn't expect to meet a totem warrior from another tribe in the Wanderer area. This more or less disrupted his original plan. But it didn't matter. It was just a small tribe. He believed that even the weakest of the people he brought here could kill this man from a small tribe in some corner. Even if this guy was an intermediate totem warrior, the people he brought here could easily trample him on the ground. But I don't think anyone can stop me from going back. Xiao Xian said without changing his expression. The man's eyes narrowed. He didn't do it himself. He always felt that as the leader, he couldn't do it himself all the time. His subordinates would rush to do it. Therefore, when he wanted to kill Xiao Xian, he moved his finger, indicating that the people behind him could start to make trouble. Sure enough, in the next moment, someone came out from the group of travelers and walked quickly to Xiao Xian. He held a small stone hammer in his hand and swung it at Xiao Xian. Because he ran out so fast, his movements were so big that his feet kicked up a lot of snow on the ground. Everyone thought that they would see the same situation as yesterday. However, they only heard a bang and the sound of bones cracking. The man who ran out with the hammer was smashed to the ground. It looked like he was embedded in the snow. However, Xiao Xian, who had just finished beating him up, didn't move his feet at all. All he did was move his arms a little. The stone hammer that was thrown up by its owner fell from the sky. Xiao Xian reached out and caught the handle of the stone hammer steadily. He moved it above the man's face and let it fall. Bang! The man who was hit by his own stone hammer screamed. But he only screamed once before he fainted with blood all over his face. He was already on the verge of fainting after being hit by Xiao Xian. He really couldn't hold on after being hit by his own stone hammer. The leader of the travelers, who stood in front of Xiao Xian, twitched his eyelids several times. His eyes were full of haze and his face was ugly. He really didn't expect that the guy in front of him could beat his subordinate with one punch. Moreover, his movements just now were obviously provocative and disdainful. He was provoking him. Jiao Wu and the others standing behind Xiao Xian widened their eyes. They knew that Xiao Xian was a totem warrior, but they never thought that Xiao Xian could beat a totem warrior with one punch. One punch. As for the travelers who came to cause trouble, their expressions were even more exaggerated. These people's expressions were like seeing a Tyrannosaurus Rex hatched from a quail egg. If they had known that there was a totem warrior here, they would have inquired more. This guy seemed difficult to deal with. When He brought his men over, this was the scene of confrontation that he saw. Chapter 206. Snow began to fall from the sky again, and it was getting heavier and heavier. It was going to be a heavy snowfall as Yang Sui had said. He came here with the people he had persuaded with great difficulty. He was still thinking about how to help, but now he could only stand aside in the cold. However, none of them left. They could tell that something was wrong. Yang Sui, who was hiding behind the door, couldn't help but gather his animal skin coat again. It had nothing to do with the totem warriors. It rarely snowed in their tribe, so he couldn't adapt to the snowy weather here. He sighed in his heart for the terrible weather here. He wanted Xiao Xian to beat all those people down, just like how he had killed the people of the Wanshi tribe. How easy it was. While thinking, Yang Sui stopped wrapping his animal skin coat. He looked at the two people who were confronting each other in disbelief. No, how could it be wrong? Because everyone's attention was on Xiao Xian, no one noticed Yang Sui's strange behavior. At this moment, the man standing in front of Xiao Xian looked terrible. He didn't want to fight with Xiao Xian directly, but he didn't want to give up. What's more, he came here with his people arrogantly. If he left without getting anything, he would lose face, and his prestige in the team would be greatly reduced. Yang Sui was not afraid of him at all, and his momentum was not weak. He should be an intermediate totem warrior like himself. He was so young, but he had already reached the intermediate level. Was he really from the small tribe called Yanjiao? Should he stop and leave? No, he couldn't retreat. I'll give you one more chance. Give me those jades. Towards the end of his speech, the man was almost enunciating every word. It could be seen that he was on the verge of exploding. Xiao Xian ignored the threat in his eyes. When he finished, he said, I'll give you one more chance. Get out. This time, not only the leader of the travelers, but also Xiao Xian's totem patterns appeared on his face. The totem power in his body was running crazily. The momentum of the two people suddenly rose. Even He Er and the others, who had just called in reinforcements, could feel it clearly. They were under great pressure. He Er, I feel that the battle over there is not something we can participate in. The person beside He Er said. That man is a totem warrior. How did that idiot Jiao Wu know a totem warrior? The person who spoke was the one who had quarreled with Jiao Wu before. Although they always quarreled, he would still come to help when Jiao Wu and Yan Ji were in trouble. Have you forgotten what happened before? Someone asked in a low voice. Previously, totem tattoos had appeared on Jiao Wu and Yan Ji. Some people said that they might become real totem warriors, but most people didn't believe it. And now, those who didn't believe it at first were starting to have doubts. Everyone's attention was focused on Xiao Xian and the traveler. Xiao Xian really planned that if he could not avoid it, he would fight against many people. He could not let anything happen to Yan Ji and the others. From Yan Shua to Old He, and now here, Xiao Xian was willing to stand up for them and protect them. At the same time, according to the shaman's idea, he could show more people the power of the totem warriors of the Yanjiao tribe. It was not that Xiao Xian was arrogant. After meeting some people in the central region, he was confident that he could defeat them. Of course, it would be difficult for him to defeat a strong warrior at the level of the Mang tribe, but Xiao Xian was confident that he could fight against people below the intermediate totem warrior level. Because of this, when he saw this group of people coming to make trouble, he did not avoid them. Because there were only 2 intermediate totem warriors in this group, and the rest were junior totem warriors. The traveler could not see Xiao Xian's real strength, but Xiao Xian could see it clearly when they slightly used their totem power. When this group of people came, they showed their aura along the way, as if they were afraid that others would not know that they were totem warriors. However, whether it was Xiao Xian or the man in front of Xiao Xian, they all knew that at this time, among the patrolling people of the Longbow tribe, some of the higher-level people should have noticed them. If they fought with all their might, the other party might interfere. They would not be willing to fight with intermediate totem warriors on the edge of the tribe. Yang Sui had said that Xiao Xian did not intend to be driven out today because of the recent weather. Since they could not fight directly, they naturally had to compete with their momentum and aura. As the atmosphere became stagnant, the momentum around them became heavier and stronger. Facing Xiao Xian, the traveler soon found that things were not as simple as he thought. He thought that Xiao Xian was a totem warrior of a small tribe, but he did not expect that this guy had reached the intermediate level. It was as if a heavy mountain had been placed on his back, and this mountain was still gradually growing bigger. If this continued, he might directly collapse. Should he take advantage of Xiao Xian's carelessness and attack him? No, he was now more and more nervous, and had no confidence to defeat this young guy in front of him. Just when the traveler was thinking about how to deal with him next, he suddenly felt a very strong sense of trembling, and he could not tell why. The traveler who was a little closer also felt the same sense of trembling, and Yan Ji and the other 3 people standing behind Xiao Xian also felt a little strange. People who were far away could not feel the turbulence. They just wondered why the 2 people were still looking at each other affectionately after such a long time. They also wanted to see a fight between totem warriors. Only the totem warrior standing in front of Xiao Xian knew that the boy in front of him was not as focused as before. He looked like he was in a daze. This should be the best time for a sneak attack, but the traveler had an intuition that if he took action at this moment, it would not be the boy in front of him who would die, but himself. He often traveled with the traveling team, so he believed in this intuition. If it continued like this, he would lose face at most. Once the situation suddenly changed, he would lose more than face. As for Xiao Xian at this moment, he was wondering why the totem in his mind suddenly became so active when he used the totem power. It was too active. What's more, outside the totem of the Flaming Horns tribe, the egg-shaped light cover that covered the outside became bright from the original dim. It was at this time that the double-horn totem inside began to become crazy and active. Not only the size of the totem increased, but the flames wrapped around the horns also became fierce. At this time, Xiao Xian felt something strange behind him. He did not look at the traveler in front of him, but turned sideways to look at the 4 wanderers standing behind him. The people who were paying attention to Xiao Xian saw Xiao Xian's movement and also looked at him. Then, a group of people were stunned. Yan Ji and the other 3 wanderers all had totem patterns on their faces. They were very clear, unlike the previous faint patterns. They were as clear as the totem patterns of the real totem warriors. When Xiao Xian turned around, Yang Sui quickly shrank back behind the door. Totem patterns also appeared on his face, but the purpose of using the totem power was to better find the answer to his doubts. In Yang Sui's eyes, Xiao Xian was now wrapped in flames. Others could not see such flames, but he, as a candidate of the shaman with the power of inheritance, could see them. If the group of travelers looked at Xiao Xian as if a tyrannosaurus had hatched from a quail egg, then Yang Sui looked at Xiao Xian as if a Neza had jumped out of a quail egg. He did not believe it, but everything in front of him was true. Xiao Xian had said that he was not a shaman, but why did he have the power of the fire seed? Moreover, Yang Sui did not intend to use the totem power, but the unique power of inheritance of the shaman suddenly became active. Because of the active power of inheritance, the totem power also jumped out by itself. Yang Sui was very confused. Who on earth was Xiao Xian? What kind of tribe was the Yanjiao tribe? For the first time, Yang Sui was very curious about this tribe that had disappeared for nearly 1,000 years. At the same time, he was very much looking forward to the appearance of this tribe in the central region. At that time, the central region would be very lively, right? Not to mention how shocked Yang Sui was, the group of travelers had already begun to retreat. Totem warriors, for more totem warriors. Didn't they say that there were only wanderers? If they had known that there were so many totem warriors, they would not have come directly to make trouble. It was very easy to escalate the conflict between tribes and lead to a war. Their tribe was not big, so they did not want to cause a war. Besides, several travelers quickly glanced at Xiao Xian. This young man's strength was not weak. The so-called Yanjiao tribe should not be too weak, right? Yan Ji and the others were in a state of excitement. They felt the same feeling as when the totem tattoo appeared that day, the feeling of being full of power and longing for a long time. The difference was that this time, the feeling was stronger. They looked at each other, and after seeing the totem tattoo on each other's faces, they were so excited that they almost jumped up. Everyone hoped that when they were in trouble, they could respond directly instead of running away. However, courage was one thing, and the limitation of strength made them see the gap between them clearly. They could only survive if they understood the current situation. But it was suffocating. Everyone dreamed that one day, they would be able to respond to the troublemakers with a straight back. However, they did not have absolute power, so they could only endure it. But now, it was different. Even if this situation was only temporary, they still had enough confidence. Jiao Wu's square face was full of toughness. He rubbed his hands, and his eyes fell on the last few travelers. He could not deal with the strong ones, but he wanted to try to deal with the weak ones. Unlike the eagerness of Jiao Wu and the others, the faces of the people brought by Hier changed again and again. It turned out that it was not easy for them to muster up the courage to come and fight, but in the end, it was useless. However, Jiao Wu and the others were really enviable. Chapter 207. Large snowflakes were falling, and the people in front of the wooden houses in the Wanderer area were in a bad mood. At the same time, outside the Longboat tribe's habitat, a man was leading a patrol team. He frowned and looked in the direction of the Wanderer area. "There is a conflict in the Wanderer area," the man said. "Is there a fight?" someone in the team asked. If it was just those travelers who killed 2 wanderers, the leader would not have paid so much attention to it. It should be a fight between totem warriors. And they were at least intermediate totem warriors. They could ignore small fights and turn a blind eye to them, but if it was serious, it would be different. "If you want to fight, fine, but don't fight in front of my house. Go away and fight as you like. I don't care if you fight alone or in groups." However, the patrol team did not hear the sound of fighting. Why was the leader so sure that there was a fight over there? "Leader Wedge, do you want to go and have a look?" someone asked. Senior totem warriors generally would not fight around the tribe's territory. Once they did, they would be closely watched by the local tribe. As for how closely they would be watched, only those who had been watched would know. Therefore, most of the time, it was the intermediate totem warriors who caused trouble. Senior totem warriors would not easily get involved. If it was not serious, the Longboat tribe would not know about it. But now, they felt it was very serious. Should they go and have a look? Mu Wedge stood on the tree and thought for a while. He looked at the snow in the sky, and finally he did not let the warriors go there. "It is not serious now. When the snow stops, we will go there and ask what happened," Mu Wedge said. In the Wanderer area, things were getting more and more unexpected. The leader did not want to stay here any longer. He did not know if there would be more accidents if he stayed here. This feeling was very bad, but he knew that it was the best to leave now. As for how to deal with these people, he had to go back and report to the leaders. In the end, they did not get the jade. The group of robbers dragged the only accomplice who was beaten to the ground and left. After Xiao Xian calmed down, the totem patterns on the bodies of Yan Ji and the others also disappeared. After all, they were not truly awakened totem warriors. What happened just now was only because of Xiao Xian. It was just that no one knew about it. Except for Yang Sui, who was hiding in the cabin with a complicated expression, Yan Ji and the others were all smiling. They were a little regretful that they couldn't fight, but there would be plenty of opportunities in the future. "Xiao Xian, can we really become real totem warriors?" Jiao Wu ran over and asked. Xiao Xian shifted his thoughts away from the totem and the egg in his mind and replied, "Yes." "Aha!" Jiao Wu laughed, looked around, and stared back at those who were hiding in the room to watch the fun. Then, he stopped at He Er and the others and immediately ran over. "You guys actually came. What brothers?" Jiao Wu said. Without waiting for He Er and the others to speak, Jiao Wu pointed at his own face and said, "Did you see it just now? Picture. Teng. 1. He Er and the others." Seeing such a vile and smug look, they really wanted to go over and give him a few slaps. Yan Ji went over and threw the arrogant man back to the cabin. Then he thanked He Er and the others seriously. "Thank you for coming." No need, it didn't work," He Er said with a smile. They grew up together and lived in the slums for more than 20 years. Suddenly, one day, they found that each other was a rich man's son. This kind of feeling was quite awkward. They felt that they could not speak as casually as before. This was similar to He Er's current mood. This was also the difference between the wanderers at the bottom and the totem warriors. However, since it was possible for them to become totem warriors, Yan Ji and the others could not continue to live here. When the snow stopped, people from the Longboat tribe would come to drive them away. It was impossible to completely hide it from them. When will you leave? He asked. In a few days. When the snow stops, we will leave. Yanji said. Jiao Wu, who was thrown into the cabin, came out again. This time, he was no longer arrogant. When he looked at He and the others, he was reluctant to part with them. Although they often quarreled and fought, they were very good friends and brothers. They would come to help them when the wanderers came to make trouble. Jiao Wu, your tribe, can wanderers be allowed to live around it? A man behind He asked nervously. If they had a good relationship with the totem warriors, they would naturally live a better life around the tribe. Although the Longboat tribe could allow them to continue to live, if they could follow Yanji and the others and live around the Yanjiao tribe, even if it was a small tribe, it would be better than here. Thinking of the relatives and friends they had lost over the years, they would rather take the risk and leave. Jiao Wu could not make the decision. He could only look at Xiao Xian. Xiao Xian had heard their conversation. He came over and said, of course, but now the tribe is still far away. In a few years, the tribe may come to the central region. Our old home is in the central region. Getting permission, He and the others were very happy. As for a few years that Xiao Xian said, it could be 3 or 5 years, or 8 or 9 years. But they could wait. As long as there was hope, they could wait. For himself and for his future generations to be better protected. They believed that Yanji and the others would definitely help. At least, when their children faced the threat of the wanderers, they could be protected. Among the people brought by He many did not know Xiao Xian. They only knew that Xiao Xian was a totem warrior who dared to confront the wanderers. They wanted to ask who Xiao Xian was, but they were a little timid. After all, they were not familiar with Xiao Xian. Seeing these people's embarrassment, Xiao Xian showed a friendly smile. My name is Xiao Xian of Yanjiao. Xiao Xian wrote his name on the thick snow with a stone knife. Xiao Xian of Yanjiao. He silently remembered this name in his heart. The people around him also remembered this name. Those who were not smart asked their companions to help them remember it. When they went back, they would write it down and keep it well. This was related to their future life. But, how can we find you? Where is the Yanjiao tribe? Someone asked. When the Yanjiao tribe comes back to the central region, you will know. Xiao Xian said. At that time, we will come to pick you up. Yanji promised. Without He and his companions, they would not have been able to live until today. Although there was a mutually beneficial relationship among them, their relationship had deepened over the years. They were like relatives and friends. Only those who came with He were guaranteed by Yanji. As for those who did not come, it was unknown whether they could come with them or not. After He and his companions left, Yanji and his companions also returned to the house. Be prepared. Those people do not dare to do anything in the territory of the Longboat tribe, but when we leave, they may not stop. Even if they do not chase us, we will encounter a lot of trouble on our way. Xiao Xian said. Well, I will make more wooden arrows these days. Yan Zhuo said. I will find a chance to exchange for some things. Yan Ji said. In the next 2 days, the travelers did not come to make trouble. Xiao Xian also prepared to leave with Yanji and the others. When the snow stopped and the sky cleared, the Longboat tribe sent people to this place. They found that Yanji and his companions had left, and the wooden house had been given away. The people in the Wanderer area returned to the tribe and reported the results to Mu Wei. As the leader of the patrol team, Mu Wei was confused. The Yanjiao tribe? What tribe is that? Chapter 208. While the patrol leader of the Longboat tribe was thinking about what kind of tribe the Yanjiao tribe was, Xiao Xian was taking advantage of the good weather and hurrying on with the others. They had planned to leave by boat, but found that many places on the river were frozen. Although the ice was not very thick, it would certainly make it more troublesome to sail. The longboat tribe did not have any livestock. Even if they had livestock, they would not trade with others, so they could not ride. In the end, they decided to go on foot. Because there were 4 more people this time, they could not let Cha-Cha carry them like before. Besides, Yan-ji and the others had not really awakened their totemic power, so it was a little difficult for them to travel. Their speed naturally decreased a lot. After walking for a long time, Xiao Xian asked them to stop and have a rest. We should be completely out of the longboat tribe's range of activities, right? Yang Sui asked. Should be, I have never been so far away. After thinking for a while, Yan-ji said, except for the time when we left by boat. In the past, they had been deceived and cheated to leave. The place where the accident happened was far away from the longboat tribe. If they were not lucky, they would not have been able to safely return to the wanderer area of the longboat tribe. But this time, their mood was completely different. Xiao Wu looked around. The surrounding mountains were covered with a layer of white. In some places, the snow had already melted, exposing the rocks and vegetation below. If the weather continues like this for 5 or 6 days, more places will be exposed. The weather here was much better than in the tribe, Xiao Xian thought. At this time, it should still be snowing and windy in the tribe. An eagle's cry came from the sky. It sounded like an ordinary eagle's cry, but only Xiao Xian, who was familiar with Cha-Cha, knew that Cha-Cha had found something unusual. Someone is coming, Xiao Xian said. The few people who were resting immediately tensed up. Who? Yan-ji asked. Xiao Xian looked at the sky, and then looked in one direction. That was the direction of the longboat tribe. People of the longboat tribe? Yan Zhuo was puzzled. They rarely come out in winter. No, it's not the longboat tribe, Xiao Xian said. It could be those travelers from before. Hearing that he was a traveler, Yan Ji and the others were worried. They actually chased us all the way here. Jiao Wu couldn't believe it. Although it wasn't snowing in the middle of winter, it was still cold outside. How could these people not give up? Looking at the sky again, Xiao Xian said to Yan Ji and the others, find a place to hide. What about you, Xiao Xian? Yan Ji asked. Don't worry about me, Xiao Xian said. Yan Ji sighed. This feeling of helplessness made them very depressed, but they had no choice but to do as Xiao Xian said. This was the only way. If they rashly jumped out, they would simply be throwing their lives away and dragging them down. Over there, Hu Qiu, who was the one who confronted Xiao Xian in the wanderer area that day, was chasing him with his people. That day, after Hu Qiu and his people returned from the wanderer area, the more he thought about it, the more he hated them. After reporting the situation to the leader of the traveling team, he was not only scolded, but also beaten. It took him 2 days to recover. Originally, he thought that the leader would help them teach the warrior of the Yanjiao tribe a lesson, but the people of the longboat tribe came to find them. Several senior totem warriors of the traveling team were tripped up, so Hu Qiu took the opportunity to lead his people to find them first. There were still some footprints in the snow. Although the footprints were shallow, Hu Qiu was sure that they belonged to those people in the wanderer area. The wanderer's footprints were different from those of the totem warriors. He just didn't know whether that guy was still there. Thinking of Xiao Xian, Hu Qiu was a little afraid, but he only hesitated for a moment, and then continued to chase. He thought that as long as he could delay that guy for a while, even if he couldn't beat him, he could delay until the leader came. Hu Qiu was confident that he could delay that guy. While thinking, Hu Qiu suddenly had a strong sense of danger. Watch out! Hu Qiu shouted. In front of them, a man jumped down from a tree. Before Hu Qiu could see clearly who it was, the man in front of him was kicked away and fell towards Hu Qiu. Hu Qiu dodged the person who was thrown at him, but the people behind him who reacted slower suffered. They were hit and fell down together with him, rolling several times in the snow. Without looking at the man behind him, Huiqiu's eyelids twitched. He knew that the man was not a simple man. Fast. Too fast. Huiqiu didn't look at the man, but only paid attention to the man's stone knife, which was like a storm. He raised the stone axe in his hand and blocked it with the axe body. Bang! A deep crack appeared on the stone axe. The difference between the stones was obvious at this time. Huiqiu always thought that his stone axe was made of the best stone. Usually, he was happy to chop it, but he didn't expect that today it would be broken directly. If he could grab it and use it himself, at this time, Huiqiu's first thought was not to be chopped by the man, but to grab the knife. However, the feeling from his hand made him unable to think about anything else. Huiqiu, who was holding the stone axe, stepped back 2 steps because of the swift and violent cut. His dark face flushed. The strong impact from the axe made the totem power in his body chaotic, and the muscles on his arm were shocked by the impact. His wrist that was holding the axe trembled a few times, and he almost couldn't hold it and let it fall out of his hand. What a strong force! In horror, Huiqiu looked at the man who chopped the knife. Instantly, the shock in his heart deepened. It was this guy. Huiqiu still remembered that when he was in the Wanderer area of the Longboat tribe, Xiao Xian's overbearing momentum was directly suppressed by him. But now, Xiao Xian's momentum seemed to be hidden. If it weren't for his keen intuition, which was brought by years of traveling experience, he might not have been able to block the knife. However, it was this situation where all the auras were hidden that made Huiqiu feel even more uneasy. Before Huiqiu could react, Xiao Xian kicked his lower abdomen. The strong force made Huiqiu unable to stand still, and his legs, which were rooted to the ground, became weak. He stepped back several steps, and his waist was bent because of the kick. The undigested roast meat he had at noon was vomited out together with his stomach juice. Although he was shocked, Huiqiu could not restrain his anger after being beaten by Xiao Xian one after another. He held back his anger, and before he could stand firm, he threw a small stone axe at Xiao Xian from his waist. Xiao Xian avoided the stone axe that was spinning rapidly in the air. The stone axe didn't hit Huiqiu, but was nailed on the trunk of a tree behind Xiao Xian, and the tree was directly cut off. Ignoring the fallen tree behind him, Xiao Xian rushed to Huiqiu, and chopped more fiercely than before. The sound of stones colliding with stones and the sound of wood breaking was heard almost at the same time. The wooden handle of the stone axe in Huiqiu's hand was shattered by the strong impact, and wood chips splashed everywhere. Xiao Xian's second chop happened to hit the mark left by the previous chop. The 2 chop overlapped, and the stone axe was almost cut off, with only a little connection. Xiao Xian shook his wrist holding the stone knife, and the remaining part of the knife vibrated, breaking the last connection of the stone axe. Before the 2 pieces of the stone axe fell, Xiao Xian used the sharp half of the stone knife to hit another person who was running over. The spear in the man's hand couldn't block the other half of the stone axe, and he was directly hit and fell to the ground. The other half of the stone axe was kicked by Xiao Xian to Huiqiu's chest. Bang! With the muffled sound of the stone hitting his chest and the sound of bones breaking, Huiqiu flew out and slid several meters in the snow. This time, he didn't spit out any food. Instead, he spat out a mouthful of blood. The pain in his abdomen and chest traveled along his nerves to every part of his body. His arm, which had been numbed by the powerful impact earlier, felt a clear pain again. He even felt a moment of dizziness. When Huiqiu regained consciousness, there were only 3 people left out of the 10 people he brought with him, and they were too timid to fight. Huiqiu was very regretful now. He really didn't expect that Xiao Xian could be so strong. Originally, he thought that he could delay for a while, but unexpectedly, he only had time to block 2 attacks and barely blocked the first one. However, that was all. He couldn't do more. Falling to the ground, Huiqiu spat out blood again, but he didn't faint. He didn't care about the 3 travelers whose legs were trembling, but stared at Xiao Xian fiercely. You wait. You all. Wait. 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 Our. Cough. Before he finished his words, Huiqiu coughed several times, and he couldn't finish his words. When he was on the ship of the longboat tribe, he was beaten by the leader of the traveling team, and his old injury hadn't fully recovered. Now he suffered a heavy setback, and he couldn't speak clearly. Chapter 209. Looking away from Huiqiu, Xiao Xian looked at the 3 people who were standing there, trembling. Huiqiu had brought 10 people, but he only killed 5 of them. He let the last one go. That man ran towards the direction behind him, where Yan Ji and the others were hiding. Xiao Xian deliberately let him go. That man was just a junior totem warrior. Compared with the previous people who were killed, although his eyes were fierce, he was hesitant when he rushed over. Obviously, he was worried and afraid of death. This kind of person was not as decisive as the others. It was better for Yan Ji and the others to practice their skills. To continue the journey, he could not rely on himself. Yan Ji and the others had to support him. Moreover, Cha-Cha also went there, just in case. Xiao Xian was not worried. As for the 3 travelers standing there, the 3 travelers who were still alive felt Xiao Xian's eyes on them. They trembled more violently. Their legs felt soft, and they almost knelt on the ground. They also wanted to run away, but found that when Xiao Xian looked at them, they did not even have the courage to run away. Which tribe are you from? Xiao Xian asked. Before Huiqiu finished his words, Xiao Xian wanted to know which tribe he was talking about. I. The middle man rolled his eyes, thinking about how to answer. Just when he was thinking, the cold tip of the knife was pressed against his throat. He was so scared that he almost peed. Don't. I'll talk. We are from the Dishan tribe. We are all from the Dishan tribe. The man's face was pale with fear. He did not have time to think too much and quickly answered. You are all travelers from the Dishan tribe? Xiao Xian looked at the man's eyes and asked. The person being questioned could only nod his head repeatedly. Spare my life. The man next to him knelt down and begged. Xiao Xian looked at them and turned away. The 3 of them heaved a sigh of relief. Was he letting them go? With their backs facing Xiao Xian, the 3 men's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. Once their leader arrived, this brat would suffer. Just as the 3 of them were about to run away, they had only taken a step when they felt a sharp gust of cold wind sweep past them. Then, they lost consciousness. Xiao Xian shook off the blood on his saber and stabbed Huiqiu, who could no longer speak. Then he walked towards Yan Ji. Judging from the commotion, the progress over there was not bad. Sure enough, by the time Xiao Xian arrived, there was already a person lying on the ground. He looked quite miserable. His body had been hit by rocks, shot by arrows, and slashed by knives. There were several wounds on his body. Yan Ji and the other 3 were gasping for breath. Well done, Xiao Xian said. Xiao Xian's words gave Jiao Wu, who was closest to the man, a lot of courage. He had killed people before, but his opponents were wanderers who robbed them of things. The disputes between wanderers were inevitable, and the loser would even be killed. It was the first time for him to have a head-on confrontation with a totem warrior. Clenching his fists tightly, Jiao Wu felt the strength in his fists. Although he was not as strong as Xiao Xian, he was full of confidence at this moment. He lifted his big foot wrapped in a worn leather shoe and stepped on the man on the ground. After checking that the man was dead, he raised his head complacently and looked around to see if there were any more people like him. Well, let's get out of here quickly. There are still many people chasing us, and there may be senior totem warriors. We can't fight head-on. If you really want to fight, wait until you reach the tribe and awaken your totem power. Then you can fight however you want. Xiao Xian said. Yan Ji and the others looked at each other and saw the expectation in each other's eyes. Since their ancestors came down to them, they had been suppressed for so many generations. After hiding for so many years, they finally saw the hope of turning things around. For the first time, they felt the blood in their bodies burning and boiling, as if there was a fire hidden in them. In order to prevent the strong wanderers from chasing them, Xiao Xian decided to escape first. If the other party had other ways to track them, they had to be more careful. He was not afraid of being alone, and he could even kill the pursuers one by one, just like how he killed the people of the Wanshu tribe in the old haunt. But now he had to take care of Yan Ji and the others. Xiao Xian took Yan Ji and the others to a place, and asked Cha-Cha to take them from one mountain to another. It was okay to take 2 or 3 people for a short flight. In this way, they could temporarily avoid the pursuers who followed the footprints on the snow. Cha-Cha helped them several times, and then they took advantage of the sunny weather to travel for several days. They didn't encounter any pursuers, but Yang Sui said that it would snow again. This time it would last longer, about 10 days, and there might be heavy snow during that time. If Xiao Xian was alone, even in the heavy snow, he could still travel. But with Yan Ji and the others, he couldn't. He had to find a place to survive the snow first. He didn't want them to get hurt because of the haste. On the day before the snow, Xiao Xian didn't continue his journey, but looked for a cave with Cha-Cha. While looking for a cave, Xiao Xian also cut some twigs from shrubs and some barks from trees. Yan Ji and the others thought that Xiao Xian only used them as herbs. Xiao Xian didn't explain, and only said that they would know when the time came. Finally, Xiao Xian found a cave on the mountainside. It was not big, but it was enough for 6 people to rest. There was a bear hibernating in the cave, and they cooked it as food. Before living in the cave, Xiao Xian lit the plants he had collected before, and then put out the fire and smoked the cave. Yan Ji and the others saw a large number of insects running out of the cave. In fact, these insect-repellent plants were not used in the Flaming Horn tribe because they were not as effective as other plants. However, in this place, it was hard to find insect-repellent plants. In winter, many plants would shed their leaves, so it was difficult to find insect-repellent leaves. When everything was done, Xiao Xian lit the fire. The 6 people gathered around the fire and talked. "Have you heard of the Dishan tribe?" Xiao Xian asked. "The Dishan tribe? I have heard of it before, but I don't have a deep impression. However, the Tianshan tribe is very famous. It is one of the strongest in the central region." Yang Sui said. "What is the relationship between the Tianshan tribe and the Dishan tribe? They are not brothers, are they?" Yan Ji asked. He was worried that they would bring trouble to the tribe. If the 2 tribes were not small, they would undoubtedly bring big trouble to the tribe. If they caused a lot of trouble before they went back, would the tribe accept them? Not only Yan Ji, but also Jiao Wu and the others were worried. Yang Sui shook his head. If the Dishan tribe was as powerful as the Tianshan tribe, it would be famous. But will the Tianshan tribe support the Dishan tribe? The names of the 2 tribes sound very related. Jiao Wu said. "Don't think too much. The most important thing now is to go back to the tribe safely. When the tribe really returns, even if the Tianshan tribe wants to make trouble, we will not be afraid of them." Xiao Xian said. According to the temperament of the Yanjiao tribe, they would not give in because of who was stronger. Instead, they would fight with high spirits. However, the number of people in the Yanjiao tribe was still not enough. When the tribe returned to the old land, there should be more wanderers coming to find them. At that time, the comprehensive strength of the tribe would naturally improve. Anyway, it was still too early to think about it. Everything had to wait until he went back. After recording this matter on the animal skin roll, Xiao Xian planned to go back and discuss it with the shaman. "Where are we going next?" Yan Ji asked. "Let's go here first." Xiao Xian pointed to a place on the map he drew. We are going to pick up some wanderers like you, called Yan Shuo. Chapter 210. After eating a pot of bear meat, the few people who were hurrying on their way cut some withered grass and dried it next to the fire to dry the cold and water vapor. They spread it on the ground and covered it with a layer of animal skin before taking a good rest. Yan Ji and the others didn't have the same physical strength as Xiao Xian. Up until now, they had been tense. It could be said that they were physically and mentally exhausted, so they needed to rest to relax. There were fewer insects in the smoked cave, so they wouldn't be bitten by sleeping. There were many small insects in the wild caves, which could cause a lot of trouble to the totem warriors who hadn't really awakened. But now, they didn't need to worry too much. Before they found this cave, they had encountered several caves. But before Yan Ji and the others went in, Xiao Xian said that it was not suitable for people to live in. There were either a lot of insects or bats. Where there were bats, it was almost a small world. There were parasites in the cave and all kinds of insects raised by bat feces, so people couldn't live in it. Xiao Xian was indeed a man who had followed the traveling team everywhere. He was so familiar with living in a cave. Yan Ji and the others thought. Not only Yan Ji, but also Yang Sui thought so. But in fact, they didn't know that Xiao Xian's experience of living in a cave was not learned from the traveling team. He had lived in a cave since the first day he came to this world. Even after he left the cave and built a house, he still lived in a cave when he often went hunting with the hunting team. Who would have thought that the powerful Yanjiao tribe in the central part of the world had now lived a more primitive life than here? They couldn't even make pottery. It was not because they didn't have the technology, but because even if they had the technology, they couldn't make pottery because of various factors. So, except for fighting and hunting skills, there were too few things left. It was unknown what Yan Ji and the others would think when they saw the real Yanjiao tribe. When they left the Longboat tribe, Yan Ji and the others brought 3 pots to boil water. 2 of them were broken on the way, and now there was only 1 left. After eating some barbecued meat, Xiao Xian went out to look for other prey. The meat was enough for Yan Ji and the others, but for him, it was nothing. Without higher quality food, Xiao Xian could not adapt to the beast meat. Since the quality could not be changed, he could only satisfy the quantity. Therefore, before Yan Ji and the others went to sleep, they saw Xiao Xian eating meat. After they woke up, they saw Xiao Xian eating meat. A pile of bones had already been thrown to the side. Yan Ji, after traveling with Xiao Xian for so long, Yang Sui had gotten used to such a situation. One Xiao Xian and the other Cha Cha were like 2 bottomless pits. There will be a buffer period of 10 to 20 days, from rain to light snow to heavy snow. After that, the temperature will drop and the river will freeze. You should pay attention. Yang Sui said. Well, I know. Thank you. Xiao Xian went back to the cave, and carried out the 6-meter-long boat that they had built together these days. Yan Ji and the others wanted to help, but they did not expect that Xiao Xian could easily carry the boat alone. He walked faster than them. Are all totem warriors like this? Jiao Wu whispered, looking at the figure in front of him who carried the boat easily. Absolutely not. Yang Sui said quietly, and then looked at Yan Ji and the others. This may be the characteristic of the Yanjiao tribesmen. Hurry up and keep up. Yan Ji slapped Jiao Wu's head and said. However, although he tried to be serious, the corners of his mouth could not help but rise. The Yanjiao tribe seemed to be really strong. In their simple way of thinking, those with greater strength would naturally be stronger. When Yan Ji and the others came to the river, Xiao Xian had already put the boat in the river. As Yang Sui said, the ice on the river had melted by more than 90%, so there was no problem for the boat to sail. After getting on the boat, Yan Ji and the others consciously picked up the wooden oars and rowed. Along the river, they went a little further and passed a fork, and then they would arrive at the section of the river where they had followed the expedition team of the Pu tribe. When they arrived there, Yang Sui had to part with them. I will go back now, just in time for the sacrificial ceremony after the end of winter. Yang Sui looked at Xiao Xian and the others. Thank you for letting me follow you all the way here. You have also helped us a lot. Well, I will ask Cha Cha to give you a ride. Xiao Xian made a gesture to the air. Ha, that's great. I have to cross several mountains in that direction. With Cha Cha, it will be much easier. Yang Sui wrapped his animal skin tightly around his head, leaving only his eyes, nose, and mouth exposed. Cha Cha descended, stretched out its claws to catch Yang Sui, and then rose. I hope to hear news about the Yanjiao tribe. Yang Sui shouted as he rose. When he returned to the Rain tribe and became a real shaman of the Rain tribe, Yang Sui would not be able to walk around like now. But, if he was unlucky and it didn't rain in the coming year, he could find an excuse to go to the Flaming Horns tribe to communicate with them. The more he thought about it, the more he felt it was a good idea. Yang Sui began to think about what excuse he would use to visit the tribe when it did not rain. Seeing Yang Sui leave, Xiao Xian took out the animal skin roll with a map on it. There were many places on it, some of which were detailed, some of which he had visited personally, and some of which were rough, according to what others had said. Yang Sui also told Xiao Xian about the Rain tribe and the surrounding area. The map also marked the location of the Rain tribe. Yang Sui's tribe is quite far from here. Yan Ji looked at the map and said. The map in Xiao Xian's hand was the most detailed one he had ever seen. As for Yang Sui, Yan Ji, and the others treated him differently because he was a shaman. But after this period of contact, they felt that Yang Sui was a good person, and he told them a lot of things that happened in the central region and other places. They were reluctant to part with him now. We will meet again if fate wills it. At that time, he will be a real shaman, and you will be real totem warriors. Xiao Xian said. Xiao Xian's words made them look forward to it. Yan Ji thought of Mu Qian. When he left the Longboat tribe, because the Longboat tribe was closed in winter, he did not see Mu Qian again. But when he left, he asked He Er to pass a few words and a piece of animal skin with some words on it. He hoped that when they met again, it would be a better situation. Let's go and find Yan Shuo. Xiao Xian looked at the sky. During this time, he also tried to check the sky in another way. When he used the special energy, he found that there seemed to be some air currents surging in the sky, which he had never seen before. Since he left the tribe, his own strength had also changed. Although he could not see it as accurately as Yang Sui, Xiao Xian could also make some judgments based on those changes. Taking advantage of the sunny weather, Xiao Xian and the others hurried on with the wooden oars. After a few days of sunny weather, it rained again. The weather was gloomy for a few days, and then it started to snow. It was rare to see people on both sides of the river in winter. As they sailed across the river, they would occasionally see one or two people along the way. They were people from some small tribes who lived around the river. From here, it could no longer be considered the central region. When the river began to freeze again and snow was falling, Xiao Xian took Yan Ji and the others to the shore and set foot on the place where wanderers and slaves lived. Probably in winter, there were no boats passing by and no people on the shore. The slaves were called back to do other work. Only some wanderers came out to look for food. Several wanderers were trembling and planning to go back from the shore. They had no harvest these days, and there were very few travelers in winter. Naturally, they could not get much reward. As they were walking, one of them suddenly found a boat coming to the shore. "Hey, over there!" the man hurriedly said to his boss. The few of them turned their heads to look and were overjoyed. "Let's go and have a look," the boss of the group said. The so-called, "go and have a look," meant that they would act according to the circumstances. If it was someone they could not afford to offend, they would treat him with a better attitude and work hard for reward. But if it was someone who was not a threat, they would take the risk of directly killing him and robbing him. The snow was getting heavier and heavier, blurring their vision. The few of them trembled and ran over with their hands clasped together. Hidden in their sleeves were thin stone knives and other tools and weapons. Acting according to the circumstances, they naturally had to prepare things first. There were only 5 people over there. 4 of them looked as if they were about to die from exhaustion. Their footsteps were heavy. There was even a woman who was carrying a few animal skin bags. Maybe there were a lot of good things. The people on the other side were even happier. "Big brother, take them directly." The man made a chopping gesture and said, "Leave the woman. Let's wait and see." The 5 people who had just come ashore were getting closer and closer. The boss was inclined to the idea of directly killing them and robbing them. But, just as he was about to say something with a harmless smile, the person in front of the 5 who had just come ashore turned around and looked at them. The boss, the harmless smile on his face froze, his body trembled even more, and he turned around and ran away. "Hey, big brother, why are you running?" One of them was still puzzled, but after seeing Xiao Xian, he ran faster than his boss. Seeing the people who came over and ran away as if they were avoiding a ferocious beast, Jiao Wu was puzzled. Why are they running away? Yan Ji guessed something, but he did not say anything. As a person who had lived in the wanderer area since childhood, he could naturally see that those people were also wanderers, but they were the kind who had bad intentions. "Let's go." Xiao Xian took Yan Ji and the others and walked towards Yan Shua's house. Because of Xiao Xian's deterrence at that time, in the past 6 months, no one had a direct conflict with Yan Shua. The slave owner did not do anything, as if nothing had happened. This also made Yan Shua's life much better. Coupled with the sudden appearance of the totem tattoo before winter, Yan Shua found that his strength had increased again, and sometimes he could hunt some satisfactory prey in the mountains. At this moment, Yan Shua was in the house, and the family was eating barbecue around the fire. There was fish soup in the pot, which was caught on a few days when the weather was good. Looking at his wife and children, who had become rosier, Yan Shua thought that it would be better if he could really return to the Yanjiao tribe. As he was thinking, Yan Shua heard someone knocking on the door. And this kind of knocking rhythm and strength meant that it was not someone from the wanderer area. Yan Shua signaled his wife and children to hide in the house. Although no one had caused him big trouble since Xiao Xian left, but for safety's sake, he was still very cautious. "Who is it?" Yan Shua shouted and walked to the door with a knife. "It's me, Xiao Xian." Hearing the voice outside the door, Yan Shua did not care about anything else. He threw his precious knife behind him and hurriedly moved the thick wooden board away. Seeing Xiao Xian, Yan Shua was very excited. "Come in quickly, it's cold outside." Yan Shua asked his wife to take out the frozen fish and other things, and then he was about to say something to Xiao Xian, when he saw the 4 people who followed Xiao Xian into the house. "They are..." Yan Shua looked at the 4 people. He felt that although it was the first time he saw these 4 people, there was an inexplicable sense of familiarity. He had already guessed the possible answer. "They are all people like you." Xiao Xian briefly introduced Yan Ji and the other 3 people. As for the people of Yan Shua's family, he had already told them on the way. Although Yan Shua's house had been expanded, it was still a little crowded with 5 more people, but it was also much warmer. After drinking some hot soup, they gathered around the fire, chatting and becoming familiar with each other. Yan Ji and the others used to be on guard against people, including the descendants of the Yanjiao tribe, but they believed in Xiao Xian, so they also believed in Yan Shua. These were the people who would go back to the tribe with them. "When the winter is over, we will leave." Xiao Xian told them his plan. With them, Xiao Xian planned to go to the drumming tribe. In the drumming tribe, the other people's lives would be protected. If they went to other places, they would encounter a lot of trouble. Although the people of the drumming tribe look fierce, they are good people. Moreover, we will need their help. Xiao Xian, you can arrange it. We will listen to you. Yan Shuo said. Yes, you can decide. Yan Ji also said. Are there many crocodiles in the drumming tribe? Jiao Wu asked tentatively. Yes. Crocodiles are very dangerous. In the longboat tribe, Yan Ji and the others had seen the crocodiles brought back by the fleet. They had been hunted during the voyage. They had only seen it from a distance, and only saw the crocodile easily bite a wooden stick as thick as an arm into pieces. But in the drumming tribe, as long as you behave and do as I say, those crocodiles are actually very good helpers. Xiao Xian told them about the situation of the drumming tribe, as well as what he had experienced in the drumming tribe. However, before going to the drumming tribe, I plan to go to the Pu tribe to find someone. The Pu tribe is not far from the drumming tribe. If we go to the drumming tribe, we will pass by the Pu tribe. Xiao Xian said. At that time, when they separated from the traveling team, Xiao Xian told you that if they could catch up, they would meet somewhere. However, when the people of the Pu tribe arrived, they stayed for 2 days, but they still did not see Xiao Xian. In order to go back, the people of the Pu tribe could not wait for Xiao Xian. This was not something that you could decide alone, so they left when the time came. However, Yu was not worried. He knew that Xiao Xian's real strength was stronger than it looked. Besides, there was an eagle. When Xiao Xian left, he also told him that if he could not catch up, he could let the traveling team of the Pu tribe go first, and he would visit the Pu tribe later. After being separated from the traveling team of the Pu tribe for a long time, Xiao Xian planned to visit Yu and several people who had helped him in the traveling team before going back. By the way, he could get some frog poison from the Pu tribe, which might be useful on the way back. Although the winter here was as long as that on the other side of the river, the weather here was not so bad. When the moon came out, the weather was actually warmer. Chapter 211. As the winter officially ended, some rafts and boats gradually began to appear on the river, but most of them were wanderers and slaves who lived here. The traveling team had not yet come out. Xiao Xian did not see the slave owner this time. Yan Shuo said that the slave owner named Shi Shu had left before winter. No one knew where he went or when he would come back. However, the slave owner had left several high-level slaves to be in charge here. With them here, the slaves did not dare to be lazy at all. These days, the slaves could be seen everywhere. Xiao Xian, Yan Ji, and the others repaired the boat that was docked on the shore. The boat was left here. There were no slaves guarding it, but it had not been stolen. When it snowed, no one was willing to go out. And when it stopped snowing, those who wanted to go out would give up when they saw Xiao Xian. We'll leave tomorrow. After repairing the boat, Xiao Xian said. Okay, I'm ready. Yan Shuo said excitedly. Yan Shuo and his family would leave with Xiao Xian, and their house would be left to their friends here. Since Xiao Xian came here last year and shocked a group of people, plus his improved strength, Yan Shuo had gathered a group of wanderers and formed a small group. Among these people, there were a few who were close to Yan Shuo, but these people could not leave with him. Therefore, Yan Shuo left his house to his brother who had gone through hardships with him, and then told them under Xiao Xian's instructions that the Yinjiao tribe would move to the central region. At that time, they could go together and live around the Yinjiao tribe. The people who were originally depressed because of Yan Shuo's departure were very happy after hearing Yan Shuo's words. This was very good news for them. With hope, they had more motivation to live. Wasn't it just a few more years? Maybe after 1 or 2 years, they would receive the news. After taking care of everything, Xiao Xian handed the prey thrown down by Cha Cha to Yan Shuo. Have a good rest tonight and leave tomorrow. At night, because of the end of winter, some nocturnal animals came out to be active, so the wanderers did not dare to go out. They all stayed at home. Xiao Xian, what are you looking at? Jiao Wu asked while eating a piece of barbecue. Xiao Xian withdrew his gaze from the window, closed the window and said, if I'm not wrong, tonight should be the tribe's annual sacrifice time. Hearing Xiao Xian's words, no matter who was eating meat or drinking soup, they all stopped what they were doing and looked at Xiao Xian. Sacrifice, sacrifice, what is it like? Yan Ji restrained his excitement and asked. On this day, everyone in the tribe will go to the fire pit to participate in the sacrificial ceremony. The totem warriors will wear clothes and accessories made from the best prey they have hunted. They will also draw the tribe's totem patterns on their faces. Xiao Xian told them about the annual sacrifice. Everyone around the bonfire listened attentively. Their eyes reflected the light from the bonfire, shining brightly. Even little Naughty, who was being held by Yan Shua, listened attentively. It was unknown how much he understood. While talking, Xiao Xian suddenly felt the totem tattoo change in his mind. 3 flames of the fire pit, the first flame has started. Xiao Xian pointed to his face and rolled up the sleeves of his animal skin coat, revealing the totem tattoo. Not only Xiao Xian, but also the faces of the other 5 people here, except for Yan Shua's wife and children, all had totem tattoo on their faces. They were not as clear as Xiao Xian's, but they did have totem tattoo. This was something that had never happened before. Every year on this day, the children in the tribe who meet the requirements will awaken their totem. When we go back, little Yan Nian will also have to experience it. Xiao Xian said. Yan Nian was Yan Shua's daughter, but she was not as beautiful as the children in the tribe. But it didn't matter. When they went back, they would gradually recover. He said to have a good rest tonight, but no one could sleep early. Yan Shua and Yan Ji even thought about Xiao Xian's words for the whole night. They didn't know if it was because they were too excited, but they couldn't fall asleep even after closing their eyes for a long time. When they woke up the next day, they were still very energetic. Yan Shua was about to leave. His friends in the Wanderer area came to see him off. Yan Shua carried the child onto the boat and looked back at the people standing on the shore. Let's go back. Everyone, wait for the good news. Taking the wooden oar from Yan Ji, Yan Shua rowed while looking at the place where he had lived for many years. These years, there were more and more houses in the territory of the slave owners, and they were getting bigger and bigger. This year, many wanderers went there, dreaming that one day, they could be promoted from the lowest slave to an important position with a title. The wanderer area was still the same. Some people left, and some people came in. Some houses collapsed, and some new ones were built. And in the river next to the wanderer area and the slave territory, there were countless corpses of wanderers and slaves. Some died of illness, and some were killed. Yan Ji suddenly remembered that when he first came to this place, the wanderer who lived next door often sat in a daze outside the door and said something. That year, the wanderer took a bone knife made by himself, pointed to the river and said to Yan Shua, every day, people died, and then were thrown into the river. They were eaten by fish, and then wanderers caught the fish and ate them. Some people were even more unfortunate. He wanted to be thrown into the river, but unfortunately, he was eaten. His bones were made into bone knives and taken to various places to hunt prey. Yan Shua couldn't remember what the wanderer looked like. He only remembered that the wanderer was seriously injured when he went hunting in the mountains. After he came back, he tied a stone to himself and jumped into the river. The difficulty of survival and the hardships of life were only understood by those who lived in it. Yan Shua looked back at those who were still standing on the shore. They were still looking at the boat. They were envious of Yan Shua, and at the same time, they were looking forward to the day when they heard the news about the Yanjiao tribe. Perhaps when that day came, it would be their new life. Forcefully rowing the wooden oar, Yan Shua looked at those who were standing on the shore and shouted, "Live! Live!" Their voices came from the shore. Jiao Wu wanted to shout as well, but Yan Ji stared at him, and he held back the shout that was about to come out of his mouth. On the green river, the boat carrying 9 people moved forward with the sound of rowing. On the boat, there were some shields made of wood. If someone attacked them from both sides of the river, they could resist for a while. Yen Shua's wife and child were protected in the middle. In the sky, Cha-Cha stared at the movement below. If he found anything unusual, he would inform Xiao Xian. Xiao Xian still had memories of this waterway. He also remembered that last time when he came here, those experienced travelers had told him about their experiences, such as which section of the river was more urgent and dangerous, and which section of the river had small tribes. Xiao Xian had also told Yan Ji and the others about these, so that they could be mentally prepared and not be too flustered when the time came. It was the first time that they left the wanderer area where they grew up. The 2 children curiously looked at the scenery on both sides, but the adults were not so relaxed. Because of Xiao Xian's warning, they had to be vigilant. On the 3rd day after leaving the river fork, Xiao Xian saw the symbol of the Pu tribe. "We've arrived at the Pu tribe," Xiao Xian said, pointing to the totem carved on a protruding rock on the mountain beside the river. There were also totem warriors patrolling the border area of the Pu tribe. They did not remember Xiao Xian, but when Xiao Xian mentioned something about last year, the patrolling warriors recalled and seemed to have some impression. Seeing that Xiao Xian and the others did not seem to be a threat, a patrolling warrior said, "Come with me, I will take you to see Fan Ning." Winter was over, the temperature rose, and the traveling team began to prepare for the first trip of the year. Among the several groups of traveling teams, Fan Ning was letting someone inform his team of the plans for this year's trip. Hearing someone calling him from behind, he turned around and saw Xiao Xian. Fan Ning remembered Xiao Xian, but he did not have a good face and looked indifferent. Xiao Xian did not care about Fan Ning's attitude. Anyway, Fan Ning had always been like this. After chatting with a few familiar faces, Xiao Xian went to find Xiao under the guidance of several people of the Pu tribe. It was the first time for Yan Ji and the others to enter a tribe, and it was not their own tribe. They were surrounded by totem warriors, which made them very nervous. When the people of the Pu tribe saw Yan Ji and the others, some showed contempt in their eyes, while some ignored them. They knew that Yan Ji and the others did not have many good things, so they could not make a deal with them. Naturally, they did not have a good attitude. However, those who knew Xiao Xian knew that this guy had a lot of good things, and he came back from the central region. When there were few people around, Jiao Wu could not help but whisper in his brother's ear, "Their eyes are so big." He was going to say something, but Yan Ji stared at him and shut his mouth. As soon as it warmed up, some frogs began to move in the Pu tribe. Because Xiao Xian had warned them before they came, Yan Ji and the others were careful not to touch those frogs, although many of them looked very fat and delicious. "Are we going to start trading in 2 days?" Xiao Xian looked around the houses and asked the people next to him. Many people around had already begun to put things out. This was the situation when the people of the Pu tribe were going to start trading. "Yes, by the way, Xiao Xian, today the people of the Luo tribe will come to trade. You can see what you can get," the man said. When he saw Zhao's hut, Xiao Xian thanked the man and gave him a piece of jerky. "Thank you." As soon as he smelled the jerky, the man was stunned. He did not expect that he could receive something just by leading the way. He grinned and looked around. When no one noticed, he quickly stuffed the jerky in his hand into the animal skin bag. He did not want others to know that he could get something by leading the way. What if someone robbed him of this job next time? This time, Zhao did not intend to leave with the traveling team. When Xiao Xian arrived, Zhao was still sleeping in the hut. Xiao Xian's arrival made Zhao very happy. Knowing that Xiao Xian wanted to trade for frog poison, Zhao made several kinds of frog poison and poisonous stingers on the spot under the curious gaze of Yan Ji and the others. He also dug out his grandfather's private collection from the ground. The old man's things are from last year. It has been too long, so the efficacy of the medicine will decrease. It is a waste to keep them. You can have them. Zhao said without any guilt. He was not worried that the old man would fly into a rage if he knew. Thank you. At this time, there was a commotion not far away. It should be the people of the Luo tribe. You can trade for some fishing nets from them. Their fishing nets are very good. I have not seen what they used to make the nets. Zhao suggested. Okay, I will go and have a look. After Xiao Xian and the others left, Zhao yawned and planned to continue sleeping. Who was here? Hey! Where is my frog poison? I was going to trade for something with the people of the Luo tribe. The old man came back. Grandpa, do you know the Yanjiao tribe? Zhao asked. I don't know. It sounds familiar. Where is my frog poison? Xiao Xian is from the Yanjiao tribe. Well, where is my frog poison? Last year, when I was with the traveling team, Xiao Xian fought with a person from the Thousand Masks tribe. He did not lose. Oh, I seem to have heard you mention it. Where is my frog poison? Once again, the grandfather and grandson began their daily conversation, which was like a chicken talking to a duck. Xiao Xian still had some impressions of the Luo tribe. The nets of the Luo tribe were indeed very special. The materials they used were very fine, much finer than ordinary grass and vines. It was also strong enough. It should be made after processing some kind of plant. Xiao Xian exchanged for a fishing net and a few fish skin clothes. Fish skin clothes were very common in the Luo tribe. It was different from the animal skin clothes of other tribes. Their tribe had 3 rivers, 2 of which could be used to catch fish. They used the most primitive tools and the most common materials to make clothes to shelter the body from the wind and rain. Whether it was the Luo tribe or the Pu tribe, or other tribes, they had experienced countless years of wind and rain. Every tribe had their own unique development history, and through survival and practice, they found more skills. Even if they did not come into contact with the more advanced culture of the central region, they could still step into the threshold of civilization. It just took a longer time. Civilization and skills were forced out by life. Compared to the prices of the central region, the trade here was very affordable. No wonder the people of the Pu tribe always liked to travel. Yan Ji and the others followed Xiao Xian and gained a lot of knowledge. After spending a night in the Pu tribe, early the next morning, Xiao Xian took Yan Ji and the others to the drumming tribe by boat. The closer they got to the drumming tribe, the more nervous Yan Ji and the others were. Although Xiao Xian had told them that the crocodiles of the drumming tribe were special, they still could not help but be nervous. The cruel scene in their memory kept replaying. The drumming tribe is in front of us. Xiao Xian looked at the river in front of them and said. Yan Ji and the others were even more nervous, glancing at the water from time to time. Hua, a figure jumped out of the water, and when he landed, he floated on the river. Soon, Yan Ji and the others saw a ferocious head covered with hard texture under the man's feet, and a pair of extremely indifferent eyes. Around the boat, there were many heads, pairs of yellow-brown eyes with vertical pupils, and huge jaws. The boat was surrounded in the middle. Except for Xiao Xian, the others turned pale. The other party was a patrolling warrior of the drumming tribe. Compared with the people of the Pu tribe, the warriors of the drumming tribe had a much deeper impression of Xiao Xian. Oh, it's you. The other party's tone sounded warm and familiar, but the expression on his face made Yan Ji and the others nervous. They always felt that he was ferocious. After hearing the purpose of Xiao Xian's visit, the other party enthusiastically led Xiao Xian into the tribe. But when he smiled, the expression on his face looked more ferocious. While walking, Xiao Xian heard a cry that others could not hear. It was that little guy. When he saw him last year, he was just a fragile crocodile. In front of them was a figure with a pair of dark brown eyes. Although the figure was much bigger, Xiao Xian could recognize him at a glance. Little Yanian, come here. I will show you the crocodile. Chapter 212. It had been more than half a year since they last saw this crocodile. Now, this crocodile was more than 2 meters long, growing faster than ordinary crocodiles. According to the people of the drumming tribe, these crocodiles would grow faster and faster, especially during the rainy season. Every time they left and came back, they would experience a crazy growth process. Little guy, long time no see. Xiao Xian looked at the crocodile and said. He also reached out and touched the hard skin on the crocodile's head. Seeing that Xiao Xian was so familiar with the little crocodile, the warrior who led them into the tribe smiled even wider, and his attitude became more enthusiastic. However, with their big mouths, Jiao Wu felt a chill run down his spine. These people's eyes were really like crocodiles. Jiao Wu and the others thought. If they saw the fighting state of the drumming tribe, this feeling would be even stronger. After a winter, although the temperature was warmer, it was not to the extent that they liked. However, in the drumming tribe, crocodiles could be seen everywhere. Several warriors of the patrol team protected Yan Ji and the others and led them into the tribe. If no one led them, the crocodiles would attack strangers and eat them as food. Some crocodiles floated up from the pool, coldly looking at the people passing by, and then sank back into the pool. Jiao Wu and the others were tense, but the two children's mentality was much better. They curiously stared at the large and small crocodiles around. Since they came to the drumming tribe, they naturally had to visit the chief and the shaman of the drumming tribe. Moreover, Xiao Xian had something to discuss with them. Last time when Xiao Xian came, the two had shown a friendly attitude, hoping that the two tribes could cooperate. This time, Xiao Xian came to talk about cooperation. The shaman and the chief of the drumming tribe had received the report from the patrol team and were waiting outside the house. Standing outside the house to greet him instead of sitting inside showed the attitude of the shaman and the chief, showing that they valued Xiao Xian. Long time no see, Xiao Xian. The shaman of the drumming tribe looked at Xiao Xian and said. Not too long, only half a year. Xiao Xian walked over and took out a piece of jade as a gift. Fan Mu took over the jade and felt a gentle warmth in his hand, which eased his irritable mood a lot. It was not that they had never seen jade before, but because the tribe was located in a remote area, far away from the central region, and unlike the Pu tribe, they did not like to travel far. In addition, the Pu tribe rarely brought jade back, so within the tribe, there were not many people who had seen jade. Only a few people with high status had seen it. The shaman of the drumming tribe looked at Xiao Xian with a more relaxed expression, not only because it was a gift from Xiao Xian, but also because he knew that before Xiao Xian left, he only had some water moonstones on him. For someone who could travel with the Pu tribe, wander around the central region, and bring his tribesmen back safely, his strength should not be underestimated. As a shaman, what he saw was not only the immediate benefits, but also something that was more beneficial to the development of the tribe in the long run. Although the shaman didn't quite understand why the people Xiao Xian brought here looked like ordinary people who hadn't awakened, he knew it involved the secret of the Flaming Horns tribe, so he didn't ask in detail. He just asked people to take Yan Ji and the others to the next room to rest, and then he and Fan Mu took Xiao Xian into the room to talk in detail. Move the tribe? After hearing Xiao Xian's words, the shaman and the chief of the drumming tribe were very surprised. Generally speaking, unless there was a great change, the tribe would not move at will. The bigger the tribe, the more difficult it was to move. Yes. To be honest, our shaman and the chief have long wanted to move the tribe to the central region, because the tribe used to be in the central region, but later left because of some things. When I go back this time, I will tell the shaman about the situation in the central region, and he will probably make the decision together with the chief. Xiao Xian explained, hiding something. If we move the tribe, we may land in the drumming tribe. At that time, I hope the drumming tribe can help us. I promise that we will not be a threat to the drumming tribe, nor will we invade and occupy the territory of the drumming tribe. Xiao Xian said. Whether they would invade and occupy, these were not things that they believed in Xiao Xian. After all, Xiao Xian was not the shaman, nor the chief of the Yanjiao tribe. As the chief of the tribe, Fan Mu and the shaman had to consider more. Xiao Xian was not in a hurry. He would stay in the drumming tribe for half a year until the end of the rainy season, which was also agreed by the shaman and Fan Mu. They would also make a decision in this half a year. After talking for a long time in the shaman's room, Xiao Xian came out and went to Fu Shi's house with Yan Ji and the others. Although they had not seen Xiao Xian for half a year, Fu Shi's family was still very enthusiastic and took out meat to entertain them. As a result, Yan Ji and the others saw the heroic and bloodthirsty people of the drumming tribe at the dinner table. Hearing Xiao Xian say that they would live in the tribe for half a year, and there was no place to live here temporarily, Fu Shi rolled up his sleeves and said, "I will help you build a house. Just build the one next to it. When Chen Jia has a family and children, he can live there too." The houses of the drumming tribe were partly built on water. Xiao Xian was not familiar with this kind of building technique, so he really needed Fu Shi's help. But fortunately, there were many people, and Xiao Xian was strong enough to carry wood to build a house. After a day, a house about the same size as Fu Shi's house was built. There were 3 rooms in the house. One was for Yan Shua's family, one was for Yan Zhua and his wife, and the remaining one was for Xiao Xian and Yan Ji and his brother. They would live here temporarily, so it would not be too complicated. Besides, they basically worked outside during the day, so they would only live here at night to give their children a place to stay. Let's make do with it for now. Xiao Xian looked at the house and said. That. Jiao Wu pointed to the crocodiles swimming in the pool under the house and stammered. Wouldn't he have nightmares living here? It's okay. As long as you don't provoke them, they won't attack you. Xiao Xian said. Bang! Cha-Cha threw down a deer he caught from the forest and left. Under the guidance of Fu Shi, Yan Zhua and the others went to the river to deal with the deer, and then dragged it back to the house. Before roasting it, Xiao Xian asked Yan Zhua to cut a piece of meat from the deer, walked to the window, and threw it to the small crocodile in the pool. Although it seemed that crocodiles usually crawled and swam slowly, they were quite fast when hunting. The meat that Xiao Xian threw out was accurately caught in the crocodile's mouth. They would live in this house until the rainy season. Of course, living in the drumming tribe, Xiao Xian also paid the accommodation fee. Sometimes he would send some game to Fu Shi and the others. After all, this place belonged to Fu Shi's family, and Fu Shi's family usually helped them a lot. Xiao Xian intended to leave before the rainy season, but to leave, they had to build a boat, which needed to be stronger and more durable than the previous one. In terms of wood, Xiao Xian would look for wood in the forest near the drumming tribe every day. If he was satisfied, he would carry it back. If he couldn't find it, he would go to a farther place to look. When the people of the drumming tribe saw that Yan Ji and the others wanted to build a boat, they also came to help. Of course, many of them were sent by the shaman to learn. They also wanted to learn some shipbuilding techniques. Although they usually used crocodiles as boats, sometimes they also needed such things. The boat looked much better than the rafts of the Pu tribe. The most important thing was that when they heard that the boat was commonly used in the central region, they became excited. Sometimes when Xiao Xian went out, many warriors of the drumming tribe would follow him. When Xiao Xian came back, they would also carry various kinds of wood. This shipbuilding was related to whether they could return to the tribe smoothly. Xiao Xian had already discussed the requirements of the boat and the hull design with Yan Ji and the others. There were no trees that were big and strong enough to make a canoe, so they could only use wood to make a boat. Yan Ji and the others also put all their energy into building the boat. It could be said that all their hopes were on this boat, so they couldn't be careless. They found a lot of things, such as gum, glue, wooden nails, stone nails, fish skin, bamboo, rattan grass and so on. They tried them one by one, and then used them on the boat. Without metal, it was naturally more difficult, so they needed to use more things to make up for it. Of course, they also needed a sail. On the way, Xiao Xian went to the Luo tribe several times. The gum and fish skin used by the Luo tribe were the things that Xiao Xian needed, as well as the materials to weave the net. Xiao Xian asked them to weave a more compact net, on which a layer of thin and strong fish skin, which was used by the Luo tribe to make summer clothes, was stuck. After paying them, Xiao Xian took the sail back. He also brought back some linen from the central region, and the fish skin sail was a spare. During the time they lived in the drumming tribe, Jiao Wu was no longer afraid of the crocodiles. Although he still avoided them, he was not as afraid as he was at the beginning. Moreover, Xiao Xian also told them that on the way back to the tribe, they would encounter more things that were more terrible than the crocodiles. If they didn't even dare to look directly at the crocodiles, how could they sail? When the boat was built, the rainy season was coming. As a means of support for their return, Yan Ji and the others built a wooden shed to protect the boat. After a long time of thinking and discussion, the shaman and the chief of the drumming tribe made a decision. They were willing to help the Yanjiao tribe when they arrived, and allowed the people of the Yanjiao tribe to enter their tribe. Xiao Xian swore by the totem that he would not rob the drumming tribe of their water moon stones and other things, nor would he maliciously hurt the people of the drumming tribe when they arrived. The two sides discussed for a whole day in the shaman's hut. Although most of the people of the drumming tribe were not so complicated and did not think too much, as the leaders of the tribe, the shaman and the chief were much more shrewd and thoughtful. After finalizing the cooperation between the two sides, the shaman of the drumming tribe specially wrote a letter on an animal skin roll to the shaman of the Yanjiao tribe. At the end of the animal skin roll, there was a totem of the drumming tribe. This was the communication between the shaman and the shaman. This was the first high-level communication between two tribes that had never formally met. The shaman wrote something, and the chief also wrote something. Xiao Xian would bring it back. He believed that the shaman and the chief would be very happy to see this. The rainy season is coming. Are you ready? The shaman of the drumming tribe stood by the window, looking at the sky outside and asked. Behind the shaman, Xiao Xian carefully put away the animal skin roll and replied, almost. When the rainy season comes, we will prepare some food and bring it back. Xiao Xian had said that he was not sure when the Yanjiao tribe would move, but it would be as soon as possible. Compared with other high-level members of the drumming tribe, the shaman believed in Xiao Xian and the Yanjiao tribe more. When he first felt the power of the Yanjiao tribe's shaman from the stone card with the totem of the Yanjiao tribe, he believed it. It was the shaman's intuition and feeling. I look forward to your early arrival. Me too. Xiao Xian said. Coming out of the shaman's house, Xiao Xian looked at the sky. It was going to rain soon. When the rain came, the rainy season would come. The biggest change in the rainy season of the drumming tribe was the crocodiles. In this boundless river, many river animals would be active in this rainy season, and so would the crocodiles of the drumming tribe. When the rain came, it also indicated that this year's rainy season had begun. Crocodiles, big and small, went to the river one after another. The crocodiles that usually stayed in the pond in front of Fu Shi's house also left. When these crocodiles came out of the valleys, tributaries, quagmires, and ponds, they moved their big claws and dragged their huge bodies slowly on the ground. It was a spectacular scene. The little ones who didn't leave with the team last year could also leave this year after a year of growth. Because of the rain, Xiao Xian and the others didn't go out today. Looking at the crocodiles, big and small, passing by the house, Xiao Wu said, I don't usually see so many crocodiles. Because usually many of them don't come out, so you don't see them. Yan Ji said. Yan Nian and his brother stood in front of the window, looking away from the crocodiles outside, and asked Xiao Xian, Brother Xian, does our Yanjiao tribe also have such crocodiles? No. Then what do we have? Yan Nian was very curious. In addition to people, there are only a few strange creatures. Are they like Cha-Cha? They look different. Xiao Xian took a charcoal pencil and drew some pictures on the board. This is Caesar, a wolf. This is Ho, a cave lion. And Sia, a deer dolphin, looks a bit like a wild boar, but has no hair. You will know when the time comes, and Xiao Xian also told Yan Ji and the others about the tribe's situation, so that they could be mentally prepared. However, for Yan Ji and the others, it didn't matter whether the tribe could make pottery, jade, silk clothes, big boats, etc. They just wanted to go back to the tribe, which was their biggest wish. The rainy season passed day by day, and the crocodiles of the drumming tribe gradually left. When the rainy season was over, the only crocodiles that could be seen in the drumming tribe were those who were not born in the breeding season. They couldn't leave, and the people in the tribe would take care of them. It's time for us to go. Xiao Xian asked everyone to pack up their things, move the boat out, and carry it to the river. The shaman and chief of the drumming tribe, and some other senior members of the drumming tribe also came to the river to see them off. After saying goodbye to the people of the drumming tribe, they boarded the boat. Xiao Xian came here from the Yanjiao tribe, but there were still many places that Xiao Xian hadn't been to. When all the tribes in Yanjiao moved here and settled down, he would go to those places again. He would go to the Thousand Masks tribe, the Hui tribe, and the Rain tribe. Goodbye. Xiao Xian waved to the people on the shore. They opened the sail and returned. Chapter 213. After the end of the rainy season, many creatures in the river had left. The most common ones in the river were the piranhas. Of course, there were also some inconspicuous small fish that could directly eat the giant fish, as well as some big fish that threatened the hull from time to time. Xiao Xian had already told Yan Ji and the others about the threats in the river. This time, there were many people, and not only Xiao Xian was rowing. Just like last year, they used the sails, oars and cha-cha to pull them forward. With the experience of last time, Xiao Xian was mentally prepared about what to pay attention to this time. Especially when they encountered invisible air pressure descending from the sky, they were prepared in advance. They were prepared, not overly curious, and focused on moving forward. Generally speaking, it went smoothly. However, sailing on the river again, Xiao Xian always had a very strange feeling. He couldn't tell why, but he always felt that the boat should be able to go faster. Although he couldn't figure out what that feeling was, it wasn't a sense of crisis. Xiao Xian couldn't figure it out, so he didn't think about it anymore. He put this question in his heart first, and thought about it carefully when he had time. For Yan Ji and the others, no matter what kind of trouble was around them, they only knew that the Yanjiao tribe was on the other side of the river, and that was enough. When Xiao Xian and the others were sailing on the river, the Yanjiao tribe had been restless since the rainy season, and had not calmed down, especially after the end of the rainy season. Do you think Xian will come back? Lang Jie asked, playing with the freshly polished stone arrowhead in his hand. I don't know. Mai said, arranging his hunting tools. The shaman said that Xian had already arrived at the old haunt. Do you think that Xian will come back after playing there for a few years? Lang Jie asked again. Mai didn't answer this time. None of them knew what the situation on the other side of the river was like. Mai's silence did not shut Lang Jie up. He continued to talk to himself, what are the people in the other tribes like? If Xian can come back safely this time, will we be able to go to the other side of the river like him next year, to the old haunt that the shaman mentioned? Lang Jie was not the only one who thought this way. Lang Ga's thoughts were also the thoughts of most people in the tribe. Over the past year, the tribe had changed a lot. Just think about it a little and you would know. Even the two team leaders who had always been at odds with each other put aside their differences. In the past, there would have been a hunt after the end of the rainy season. However, this year, the two team leaders were not in the mood to lead the team. After a discussion, the shaman and the chief agreed. Every day, there would be quite a number of people loitering by the riverbank. The continuous sunny weather after the rainy season was supposed to be a good day for hunting and bathing. However, whether it was adults or children, on the mountain or at the foot of the mountain, no one was in the mood to do anything else. Whenever they were free, they would stare at the river. As the days passed, the river level began to drop. Will Xian come back or not? Have you forgotten about it? Don't talk nonsense. Once the river level began to drop, it would only drop faster and faster every day. They were anxious. They didn't know how long they would have to walk on the river. Seeing the river level drop day by day, they were also anxious. From the end of the rainy season to the full moon, whether Xiao Xian could come back or not depended on this period. There were many fish fences on the riverbank. As the fences left the river one by one, the people who walked around the riverbank every day ate less and became thinner in a few days. On this day, the two team leaders who walked around the riverbank every day looked at each other and sighed. They both saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. They already thought that Xiao Xian would not come back this year. What about another year? 1 year, they didn't think so before, but now they felt that it was a long time. While they were sighing, Kiki, who was poking at the sand and staring at the river, suddenly stood up and stared at the river in the distance. Ta and Gigu saw Kiki like this, and their hearts trembled. They didn't have time to think about anything else, and hurriedly looked at the river in the distance. Yang Guang was a little dazzling. The ripples on the river reflected the golden light. Further away, where the river met the sky, it was a little blurry. However, this didn't prevent Ta and Gigu from seeing the little black spot where the water met the sky. Is it Xian? Ta's voice trembled. In the past, he didn't like Xiao Xian very much. However, since he knew more, he also understood that whether the tribe could go out or not depended on Xiao Xian. His attitude towards Xiao Xian naturally changed, and he also had unprecedented expectations. Because of his high hopes, Ta was still a little hesitant and didn't believe it when he saw the little black spot on the river. Yes, it must be Xian. Who else could it be? Boss, it must be him. Kiki and the others standing next to Ta all answered. Ta didn't pay attention to them, but looked at Gigu, waiting for Gigu's answer. Gigu stared at the river. When the little black spot got closer and closer, the muscles on Gigu's originally tense face trembled, and his eyes were filled with ecstasy. Yes. Look at the sky. There was a shadow in the sky. Is that Cha-Cha? Ha! Ha! Gigu laughed out loud. He held the wooden whistle, took a deep breath, and blew it with all his strength. The sound of the wooden whistle, which was as clear as the chirping of birds in the forest, was extremely harsh at this time. However, the people in the tribe who heard the whistle didn't think it was unpleasant at all. Because it was made by the people on the shore, and the sound meant that the thing they were looking forward to might happen on the river. The whistle only sounded once and then stopped. It wasn't that Gigu didn't want to continue, but that he used too much strength and the wooden whistle broke. The whistle was blown to pieces, which showed how excited Gigu was at this moment. The shaman said that as long as Xiao Xian came back, there would be hope for everything they wanted to do. For thousands of years, they were about to achieve what their ancestors had been looking forward to. Jiao, a long eagle cry pierced through the sky and spread to the tribe. Caesar didn't wait for old Ku to get on his back, and ran towards the river bank, leaving old Ku alone. He looked at Caesar's back and shook his walking stick hard. However, he didn't show any anger on his face. Instead, his red eyes were filled with joy. Roar! The animals on the mountainside and the top of the mountain roared when they heard the sound that had disappeared for a year. The shaman stood on the top of the mountain and rushed down the mountain. He was even more excited than when he heard that the bodies of his ancestors had been found. It had been a year. During this year, the shaman had been thinking about what would happen if Xiao Xian succeeded, and what would happen if he failed. Shamaness was under tremendous pressure, and in just a year, Shamaness seemed to have aged even more. Soon, a large number of people gathered by the river bank. It was even more grand than when the hunting team returned. Almost everyone who could walk gathered by the river bank. Those who couldn't walk or were injured were carried by those who could walk. Standing at the front were the shaman, the chief, the team leaders, and some old men who had more power on the mountain. This was the only place where no one dared to squeeze. As for the other places on the river bank, everyone wanted to stand at the front and watch. However, the space was limited, so they could only squeeze with their strength. Even the fish fence made by Xiao Xian and Lang Jie was full of people. It was like a fighting ring. Whoever wanted to go up had to rely on their strength. It was really hard to imagine how these burly men could squeeze onto the stone pillars that were much thinner than them. Hey, don't push. Why are you pushing? Go back. Don't push, or I'll beat you to death. The person standing at the front of the river bank felt a strong push from behind. He turned his head and was about to yell, but when he saw Caesar's figure, which was even taller than him, he immediately swallowed his words and voluntarily stepped aside. How could he not? Caesar was baring his teeth. If he didn't step aside, he would be bitten and thrown away. Xiao Xian also saw the people by the river bank. He stood at the bow and waved his hand. He shouted to them, "I'm back." Ouch! Caesar howled to the sky and squeezed the people next to him. He was so excited that he wanted to jump into the water. If there were not so many uncertain factors in the river, he would have jumped into the water. Is that, our tribe? Yan Ji and the others' hearts were beating fast. The words, our tribe, had a life-changing meaning to them. They could feel the friendly aura coming from the other side. Before they even saw the land, they could already feel it. It was the affinity that belonged to the fire seed. It was a strong feeling that made their blood boil. Now, when they saw the people by the river bank, they felt that they were full of strength. They had been sailing on the river for such a long time and had become weak. That is our tribe. Yen Shua took the wooden oar and intended to paddle again. Although Cha-Cha was pulling the boat, they just wanted to go faster and get closer to the other side. Yen Ji had the same idea. When they were about to paddle again, they suddenly heard the sound of water breaking out from the back of the boat. They had heard this sound many times during the voyage. It was the sound of a fish jumping out of the water. Judging from the sound of the water, it was a big fish. Yen Ji and the others' hearts sank at the same time. When they encountered this situation on the water, Xiao Xian and Cha-Cha were the ones dealing with it. However, Xiao Xian was standing at the bow and Xiao Xian didn't seem to turn around to help. The shadow was getting closer and closer. Yen Ji turned his head and saw the scales on the fish, which were bigger than his palm, and the dense fangs in its mouth. If they didn't take any action, the fish would directly eat Yen Ji and Yen Shua, who were the closest to it. If they fell on the boat would be overturned. The fish was getting closer and closer. Yen Ji could even smell the fishy smell coming from the fish. They were so close. Would they be buried in the fish's belly? Yen Ji and Yen Shua felt that their hands and feet were cold. They could only hold the wooden oars and try their best, although they knew that with their strength, they couldn't compete with the big fish. However, before Yen Ji and Yen Shua could take action, in the next moment, they felt a piercing sound coming from the other side of the river. An austere and cold wind quickly swept over their exposed skin, almost causing goosebumps to appear on their bodies. Whoosh! 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 Thin and thick spears and long and short stone knives shot past Yen Shua and Yen Ji and nailed the fish. Puff! In an instant, blood splashed everywhere. Chapter 214. In an instant, the jumping fish was almost nailed into a hedgehog by the spears and stone knives. After the spears and stone knives were nailed into the fish was directly pushed away from the top of the boat. Before the fish fell, a variety of stone tools were thrown one after another. In an instant, the fish that had been nailed into a hedgehog became even more miserable. Whoosh, a stone pillar, as thick as a thigh and much longer than a person, directly hit the fish like a spear. It was a stone pillar from one of the fish fences. Someone directly pulled it out and threw it as a weapon. Yan Ji and the others only heard a muffled sound. Blood splashed and splashed on their faces. When he looked over again, he saw that the big fish with sharp teeth that leaped up had just been pierced into a hedgehog, and a hole had been smashed into it by the stone pillar. From the moment the fish jumped to the moment it fell into the water again, Xiao Xian didn't turn around, as if he had known this would happen. Such a violent and bloody scene left Yan Ji and the others, in addition to the moment of shock, with unprecedented excitement. To put it bluntly, it was the feeling of having a backer. They were no longer a weak group. Behind them, there were many, many people, and even more powerful existences. Once, Yan Ji asked a man of the Longboat tribe what it was like to have a tribe. The good-tempered old man said to him, "It's like, when a crisis comes, if you can't deal with it alone, it's okay. Look back, there is a tribe behind you." Yan Ji still remembered the proud look in the old man's eyes when he said this. Although the old man had been bullied in the Longboat tribe, he knew that sometimes, the tribe was his strongest support. And Yan Ji finally felt this kind of dependence and reliance. The splashing blood made the piranhas in the river more active. However, because of Cha-Cha's flying and pulling, the boat was quickly approaching the shore. The piranhas in the river temporarily focused on the same kind of people who had fallen into the water and were badly mutilated and couldn't be seen clearly. After not coming back for a year, Cha-Cha was more excited than Caesar. After going out for a walk, it felt that the tribe was better. It was more comfortable in the forest. When flying outside, it had to consider whether it was in someone else's territory. In addition, there were only two of them, Xiao Xian, and it had to think twice before doing anything. If it encountered any trouble, it could only solve it by itself. This feeling made it very uncomfortable, and the food it ate was not good. It felt that it had not grown much in the past year. Now that it was finally back, Cha-Cha's first thought was to improve its food. Looking at the fast-approaching boat, the people of the Yanjiao tribe were very happy. There were several people behind Xiao Xian. And the things he left behind were enough for the shaman and the chief to discuss for a long time. After Xiao Xian left, the shaman and the chief tremblingly picked up the animal skin rolls given by Xiao Xian, and carefully read the last one. This was the first time they came into contact with things outside the tribe. That night, the shaman and the chief gathered all the prestigious people in the tribe to discuss the migration of the tribe. In fact, it was not a migration, but a return. Now, there was finally hope to return to the old haunt. Chapter 215. Xiao Xian's return changed the atmosphere of the tribe once again. The people in the tribe had doubts before, but now they were very sure and looking forward to it. In the morning, Xiao Xian walked out of the door, felt the yang guang in the sky, and stretched. The soup is ready, and the meat is almost done. Eat it before you go up the mountain. Old Ku said in the house. He had prepared the food early in the morning and started to polish the stone tools. Okay. Xiao Xian answered. After a night of rest, all the fatigue from sailing on the water had disappeared, and he was very energetic. It felt like he hadn't slept so well in a long time. Because he had told the shaman yesterday that he would go up the mountain to discuss today, Xiao Xian did not delay any longer. He took the roasted meat that was almost done, poured a bowl of soup, and ate it. After the meat and soup entered his stomach, the emptiness in his stomach disappeared, and he felt very comfortable. Vicious beast meat is really delicious. Xiao Xian wiped his mouth, said goodbye to old Ku, and went up the mountain. In the past year, because of the shaman's influence, the distance between the people on the mountain and the people at the foot of the mountain had narrowed a lot, and the once clear division of classes had become blurred. The shaman said that if they could go out, everyone would be in the same group. Outside, there was only the Yanjiao tribe, and there was no distinction between the top and the bottom. Perhaps there were still many people who did not understand, and their thinking had not changed. Even the chief and many people on the mountain would not change their thinking before they went out. However, this was all temporary. When going up the mountain, many people saw Xiao Xian and wanted to ask more questions, but they knew that Xiao Xian was going to the shaman's place, so they did not dare to say much. They just greeted him, and then watched Xiao Xian go up the mountain. When he got up the mountain, he did not even need to take out the shaman's badge, and no one stopped him. The people on the mountain looked at Xiao Xian with sparkling eyes. Even the old men who usually liked to put on airs had kind looks on their faces. When Xiao Xian entered the house, only the shaman was there, and the others had just left. After a night without rest, the shaman was also tired, but the excitement in his eyes did not diminish. Yesterday, he had read the animal skin scroll written by the shaman of the drumming tribe and knew about the cooperation between the drumming tribe and the Xiao Xian. "You did very well," the shaman said. If other people in the tribe were praised by the shaman, they would be so excited that they wanted to jump up, but the one sitting in front of the shaman was Xiao Xian. Xiao Xian calmly sat down across the table. "So, what's the decision between you and the chief? Move." His voice resonated. And that trip made Xiao Xian more aware of the importance of the tribe in this big environment. If the tribe was strong, Xiao Xian would have more protection. Fire crystals were undoubtedly a very good way to improve in a short period of time. Last time, because of the vampire bats, they did not dig deeper. But Xiao Xian believed that there should be more. It was very likely that there was a fire crystal mine there. Xiao Xian also heard about the fire crystal mine when he walked around in the central region. For a fire crystal mine, there might be disputes between two or more tribes. And now, in the forest, there might be a fire crystal mine, and no tribe came to fight with them for it. Xiao Xian certainly would not let go of such an opportunity. For this, Xiao Xian was willing to go there and take the risk again. 2 days later, the shaman and the chief proposed the return plan, which also indicated that the tribe's return trip was officially put on the agenda. Although the time was not set, it showed the tribe's attitude. In the next few years, this plan would be the center. From the day the shaman and the chief proposed the return plan, the tribe began to officially mobilize all the people. Last year was just a warm-up, and from this day on, it was the real fight for the return. First of all, they had to take good care of their bodies, especially those who lived at the foot of the mountain, who were in poor conditions. The tribe would provide more food for those thin children. Every child was the future of the tribe. But the shaman also said that the tribe did not need useless people. If they did not take this opportunity to improve themselves, then, humph. The shaman did not say what they would do, but everyone was worried that they would be left behind. The tribe had left, and if they were left behind, how could they survive in this wild mountain? The healthy people had their tasks, and the disabled people also had ways to prove their value. For example, old Ku would make more stoneware every day. The people at the foot of the mountain only needed to exchange a few things from old Ku. With Xiao Xian, old Ku was not worried about food. Besides, Caesar and Cha-Cha often went out to drag prey back. At the foot of the mountain, old Ku was already the richest person. When Xiao Xian and the others came back, it was almost the full moon. The hunting team would go out after the full moon. At that time, the hunting team members would go out twice as often as before. In addition to hunting, the warriors also needed to collect wood to build boats. There were many choices of high-quality wood in the mountains, so they did not need to worry about this. The difficult part was how to build a bigger boat. Yanji and the others could build a small boat, but they were not sure how to build a big boat like the one in the Longboat tribe. They needed more time to try. If they could not build a big boat, the tribe could not move. After all, this was a big migration of more than 2,000 people. Chapter 2:16. This time, in order to build the boat, the technical workers in the tribe also joined in. Regardless of whether they were doing woodwork or setting traps, all the skilled people participated in this work. Because they were skilled, they learned things quickly. What Yanji and the others had mastered, the skilled workers in the tribe could also quickly master. When the time came, everyone would discuss and brainstorm together, and eventually they would be able to make something. Xiao Xian often joined in their discussions. Although Xiao Xian was not proficient in building boats, he had seen more big boats and could give more suggestions on the design. When the hunting team went out, they had to prepare food, wood, herbs, and various other necessities. At the same time, they had to improve their strength. Without strength, how could they fight in the tribe? Of course, they had to keep their lives. Otherwise, it was not worthwhile. On the mountain, Yanji and the others had been settled down. Because it was not the time of the annual sacrifice, they had not awakened their totem power yet. They had to wait until the beginning of next year, when they could awaken their totem power with the next batch of children who met the conditions. Although they had to wait for half a year, Yanji and the others were very happy. After all, they were back in the tribe. They were no longer rootless duckweeds and would not be bullied by others. After living in the tribe for a few days, they also learned about the living conditions of the tribe. They had confidence in the Yanjiao tribe and were looking forward to the tribe moving back to the old land. "How is it?" Yanjua asked his wife, who came in from outside. He knew that his wife had been trying to make pottery these days. Yanjin shook her head. "It can't be done." The eyes of the several old men sitting next to her also became gloomy. As Xiao Xian said, even if they had the technology of making pottery, they could not make pottery here. What they made was either broken or fragile. It was no wonder that in the past 1,000 years, the Yanjiao tribe had basically used stone tools. "It's okay," Xing suppressed his disappointment and said with a smile, "When we go back to the old land, we will try again." "Yes, when we go back to the old land, everything will be different." The other old men also said. Yanji and the others were settled here. It was said that they were taking care of them, but in fact, everyone wanted to know more information from them. Being tyrannical in the nest was different from being tyrannical outside. Once they were outside, if they wanted to continue being tyrannical, they would need to have the capital and strength to be tyrannical. Just like hunting, it was better to know the habits of the prey. If they wanted to know the situation on the other side of the river, the best way was to learn from Yanji and the others. While Yanji and the others were talking about pottery, they saw people walking down the path of glory from the top of the mountain. "Are those the hunting team?" Yanji suppressed his excitement and asked. "Yes, because the plan has changed. From now on, there will be more people going out each time," an old man said. "Hunting. Ominous beasts?" Jiao Wu still couldn't believe it. The hunting team is quite imposing," an old man said. Xing glanced over and said, "Because the leader told them that on the other side of the river, there are many people who are stronger than the beasts. This time, there are probably many people who want to use the beasts to practice." Yanji and the others, there were many people who were more powerful than ferocious beasts. These words were slightly exaggerated. However, it seemed that many people in the tribe believed it. Xiao Xian was also in the hunting team this time. He still left with Mai and the others. However, when they left the tribe and entered the familiar forest, all the members of the advance group, who were supposed to go to the Green Land, went to the Bat Mountain with Xiao Xian. The other 5 hunting teams, which had expanded their numbers, and the hunting team that had opened up a new hunting route, had a total of 6 hunting teams of more than 500 people. However, they all stayed in the first hunting area to hunt. In the following time, unless they received the news, the leaders of the hunting teams would not continue to lead the team forward. This was also to prevent Xiao Xian from being in danger, so that they could go to his rescue. However, except for several small leaders and several important people in the team, no one else knew about this. They only thought that it was because of the change of the return plan, so they didn't ask much. On the other side, after Xiao Xian, Ta, and the others separated from the hunting team, they waited for a while and met up with Gigu and the others. Finding the fire crystals was a big deal. It was related to the return of the tribe, so the shaman and the chief attached great importance to it. Naturally, they had to send more people. At the same time, Ta and Gigu were also summoned by the shaman. He told them that if it was too difficult to find the fire crystals, they could give up, but they must ensure the safety of Xiao Xian. The 2 team leaders also understood the significance of Xiao Xian to the tribe. This guy might be really blessed by the ancestors, so they had to protect him. The 2 team leaders and their subordinates were so active. They also regretted that they couldn't participate in the fire crystal digging. After such a long time, they finally had such an opportunity again. Naturally, they wouldn't let it go. They had already learned about the condition of the vampire bats from the warriors in the hunting team. They also prepared herbs to prevent people from losing their ability to move after being bitten. Xiao Xian took them to the giant pit where the fire crystals were dug. When they arrived at the foot of the mountain, they found 2 people standing there. Father? Ta was surprised. The people standing at the foot of the mountain were the chief Ao and another senior totem warrior, Dai, whose strength was similar to Ao's. Chief. Why are you here? Xiao Xian asked. He didn't ask the chief to come here before. The shaman is worried, so am I, Ao smiled. However, when he looked at the mountain in front of him, which was not very tall, the smile on Ao's face disappeared. Dai, who was beside him, also had a serious look on his face. It's not easy. Dai said. Looking at the tall mountain in the distance, Ao asked, those bats, did they all fly there? Yes. Xiao Xian nodded. No. Ao shook his head. Not all of them. The mountain in front of us is like this now. It must be caused by the bats. They came back often. Not a single blade of grass could be seen on the mountain, which was not very high. Most of the plants on the mountain had withered. The plants that were still growing on the mountain were almost all highly poisonous plants. There were also extremely rare medicinal plants, but they were very rare. Compared with the last time, it has changed a lot. Xiao Xian said, the last time I came here, it was not so serious. If it was the poisonous miasma caused by the corpses in the mountain, it would be too much. There was some black fog floating in the open air of the mountain. That was to say, it was very likely that, as Ao said, bats often came here, so it caused such a change. Why did those bats still come to this small place after they migrated? Logically speaking, with a new and bigger place, why did they still stay in this small place? It should have been abandoned. Is there really a fire crystal mine here? Ta's eyes flashed. Anyway, let's go in and have a look. Ao said. Wearing the rattan mask, they went to the giant pit on the mountain. For the tribe, even if it was dangerous, they had to go. Chapter 217. This time, Cha-Cha and Caesar came with them. Cha-Cha was searching in the sky. If he found anything unusual, he would warn Xiao Xian. Walking from the foot of the mountain to the top, they were surrounded by black miasma. If a junior totem warrior was here, he might not be able to withstand it. Even Kiki and the others felt a little uncomfortable. Xian, did you encounter this when you came here last time? Kiki asked. No, last time, there was only miasma in the cave. Outside the mountain, there was grass and other plants. Xiao Xian said. But now, as far as they could see, there were almost no trees. Even if there were, they were dead and rotten, not to mention the fresh green grass. It was all because of the miasma. Everyone was slightly nervous. They knew that the mission this time was not simple. While walking, Xiao Xian stopped and listened carefully. It was like the sound he heard when he came here last time. There was a rhythmic sound of air flow, like someone was breathing. What's wrong, Xian? Gigu, who was walking behind Xiao Xian, asked confusedly. What did you find? Ao, who was in the front, also stopped. The breathing sound could not be heard by others, not even by Ao. It's here. Xiao Xian said. It? Ta thought of something and became serious. The bat leader? Xiao Xian nodded. Didn't you say they went somewhere else? Kiki turned his head and looked at the mountain in the distance. Looking from here, they could see the mountain in the distance, which was much higher than the surrounding mountains. The mountain was surrounded by clouds and mist, and the top of the mountain was covered with white snow. That was the place where the bats had gone. Later, it was confirmed that the bats had occupied that place, and all the cave bears had been driven away. I don't know why, but I am sure that the bat leader is in this mountain. Xiao Xian pointed at the foot and said. After some thought, Ao said, let's go up and take a look. The last time he dug out the fire crystals, it was in the giant pit on the mountain. This time, he naturally had to go to the giant pit to have a look. As they continued to climb up the mountain, Xiao Xian told Caesar not to get too close. He also gestured to Cha-Cha in the sky to stop them from following them. In the wild, there was a strong sense of repulsion between vicious beasts. A single mistake could lead to an intense and endless conflict. The mountain was not high, and they soon arrived at the crater at the top of the mountain. The last time Xiao Xian had found this place to help search for people, he could still clearly see the situation in the sinkhole and the various plants growing on the walls of the sinkhole. But now, it was completely different. The black fog was even thicker than the fog at the foot of the mountain. The originally clear sky seemed a little gloomy because of the poisonous miasma. Under the sinkhole, there was an even thicker poisonous miasma. The people standing above could not see the situation below the sinkhole at all. What should we do? Tower and Gigu both looked at Ao. Since the leader was here, he naturally listened to the leader. Dai and I will go down and have a look first. Ao said, putting down a bundle of thick straw rope made of rattan and grass. He and Dai went down along the straw rope, one in front of the other. The others stared at the sinkhole nervously, even though they could not see anything. There were no other bats around. From the foot of the mountain to the top, they did not see any other bats. But Xiao Xian listened to the rhythmic breathing sound and was very worried. He still remembered that last time when he and Mai went into the cave and encountered the bat leader, they were almost collectively killed. Seeing the look on Xiao Xian's face, Tua said, don't worry. The leader and the team leaders are here. Nothing will happen. The others also thought so. Last time, when the 5 hunting groups dug out the fire crystals and went back, they told the others about the vampire bats. Everyone was very afraid, but no one thought that the accident would happen again in the case of the leader and several senior totem warriors. After all, the members of the hunting group were basically beginner and middle-level totem warriors. Compared with the warriors in the advanced group and the senior totem warriors, they were much weaker. Even Ao and the 2 team leaders felt that they could fight it out if they worked together. Only Xiao Xian was not so optimistic. They waited for a while, but did not hear anything below. Ao and Dai, who went down to check, also came up. They did not have any other injuries. I didn't see anything. Only some ferocious beast corpses. Ao said. Ferocious beast corpses. They did not see them last time. Anyway, let's go down and see if there are any fire crystals. Dai said. Tower, Gigu, Wei. Ao pointed to 5 people, go in with me and Dai. Xian, you go with us. The rest of you will stay outside and listen to the whistle when the time comes. Yes. The people Ao pointed to were all senior totem warriors. Xiao Xian, who could sense the fire crystals, naturally had to go down. He was the only intermediate totem warrior, so he was protected in the middle. Walking down along the straw rope, Xiao Xian felt more and more confused. Something is wrong. Xiao Xian said. The others did not say anything, but Xiao Xian knew that they were listening. After carefully checking around and finding no other creatures, Xiao Xian said, last time we came here, the giant pit was not so deep. When his feet finally touched the ground, Xiao Xian checked around again. Still, he found nothing. The sound of breathing was still clear, but even Xiao Xian could only hear the rhythmic breathing sound. He could not judge the specific direction, whether it was far or near. The feeling of uneasiness was getting stronger. At this time, it was noon. In the forest outside, Yangguang was shining brightly. However, in the giant pit, it was as dark as night. The black miasma in the giant pit almost blocked the light from above. Fortunately, the people who came down had better eyesight than the others, so they could see the surrounding situation with the dim light. However, they could only see part of it, and could not see further. The thick miasma still affected their vision. The stink was not strong, but it made people feel dizzy. They did not know whether it was the smell of the miasma or something else. He stuffed a stalk of herb into his mouth and chewed on it. The bitter and refreshing taste stimulated his nerves, clearing up his somewhat dizzy mind. No wonder the chief did not allow Kiki and the others to come down. Even intermediate totem warriors like Kiki and the others could not stay awake all the time. While thinking, Gigu turned his head and saw Xiao Xian, who was carefully checking around. His idea was stuck. He was also an intermediate totem warrior, but he looked very sober. Compared with the last time he entered the bat cave, Xiao Xian's immunity to the miasma was much stronger this time. Even if the miasma here was thicker, he could still stand it. There are great changes here. Xiao Xian lowered his voice and said. The last time they were here, the 5 hunting groups had left many holes because they were digging for fire crystals. Now there were also pits on the ground, but they were much bigger than those left by the last hunting group. Looking carefully, there were some deep claw marks beside those pits. It was easy to guess who had caused them. However, looking at those claw marks, if it was the bat leader, it had grown a lot. In the giant pit, there was a stinky smell. There were many corpses around. Some only had skeletons left, and some still had fur, but they looked very shriveled, as if all the water in their bodies had been sucked away. No matter the skeletons or those with fur, they were all large ferocious beasts. Did it do it? Ao asked Xiao Xian in a low voice. Yes, it should be. The bat leader was most likely to be the culprit. However, they didn't know why the bat leader would come back here after taking its brothers to fight for territory. It seemed that it had stayed here for a long time. Judging from the skeletons, it must have been here for more than a year. How strong was the bat leader that could catch these large ferocious beasts as food? Everyone was on high alert. Then, where are the fire crystals? Xian, can you find them? Ao asked. This was the primary purpose of their trip. The others also pricked up their ears, waiting for Xiao Xian's reply. Yes. Xiao Xian said. Where are they? Ao suppressed his excitement and asked in a low voice. Right under your feet. Xiao Xian said doubtfully, there is one 10 steps to the right of team leader Ta, and there is one not far behind team leader Gigu. It was not like this before. So many. Ao immediately bent down, intending to dig with his knife. However, when he moved his feet, he felt that he had stepped on a hard block. He dug the soil with his knife and saw the crystal with a very familiar texture. Although he couldn't see clearly because of the light, Ao was sure that this was the fire crystal. Ao Ding Ding held his breath and looked at the thumb-sized crystal under his feet. This was the biggest fire crystal he had ever dug up in his life. When he was young, he had dug it up once by chance. It was completely out of luck. Many people couldn't dig it up even once in their lives, but he had encountered it. But at that time, he had only dug up a very small piece. Even so, he had been excited for a long time. But now, looking at the crystal under his feet, Ao still couldn't believe it. So simple. Such a big piece of fire crystal was found by him. Even as the leader, Ao couldn't react for a while. The so-called digging, was this how he dug it up? No, no. Just as Ao picked up that piece of fire crystal, a strong sense of crisis suddenly struck him. Be careful. Ao and Xiao Xian almost shouted at the same time. However, the next moment, they found that their vision blurred, and they suddenly felt that their heads were about to explode. Their vision, hearing, and so on all disappeared at this moment. After a few seconds, they calmed down again, but everything around them seemed to have lost its sound. Ao Neng saw that Xiao Xian, who was not far away, was saying something with his mouth wide open. Dai, who was next to him, was holding the huge stone hammer, and his mouth was opening and closing. Everyone seemed to have lost their sense of hearing at this moment. They couldn't hear other people's voices or the sound of the outside world, but they could clearly hear their own heartbeats. Bang! Bang! Following his intuition, Ao looked in one direction. Over there, a black shadow was approaching them quickly. He could see the folded wing arms and powerful hind legs of the other side. The figure was tall, but it seemed to be extremely light. There was no vibration under its feet at all. When it came closer, Ao Neng saw its big open mouth, and its nose and throat were moving strangely. This should be the reason why they couldn't hear the sound. Bat leader. At this moment, the first thing that Ao thought of was not how to hide the fire crystal, nor how to fight against the fast-approaching big guy. Instead, he rushed to Xiao Xian, grabbed Xiao Xian's collar, and threw him to the place where the rattan grass was placed before. Here, they couldn't hear any sound. Ao was not sure whether the people above the giant pit could hear the movement in the giant pit. What he needed to do now was to let Xiao Xian stay away from the battlefield, and then unite with the other 6 people to fight against the big guy. Xiao Xian was thrown out of the battle circle by Ao. Without Ao Duo's instruction, the others were ready to fight. The 7 people were all experienced totem warriors, and they were all the leaders of the hunting team. Everyone knew what they were facing now. This was a more powerful ferocious beast than the ones they had encountered in the forest before. A top ferocious beast. They must work together and do their best to kill this ferocious beast in the shortest time. Dai, who was closest to the bat leader, took action before the others. Deep flame lines appeared on his thick arms, and his arms swelled up and became thicker. He held a stone hammer that was as tall as a man, but it seemed that he could not feel the weight of the stone hammer. He moved quickly and swung it toward the bat leader. When he swung it, Dai's arms had accumulated all the strength in a very short time, and he suddenly smashed it down. If there was no interference from the bat leader, they could still hear the whistling sound of the stone hammer, as if it would forcibly break the air. Visible ripples spread from the collision, and the surrounding poisonous miasma seemed to be forcibly squeezed out of that small area at that moment. There were no splashing stone chips, and no sound of impact. However, at that moment, everything seemed to be frozen. When the stone hammer hit, the bat leader raised its folded wing claws and blocked the thunderous blow with its wings as a shield. While Dai Chao attacked the bat leader, the others also took action. Gigu's knife was directly bitten by the bat leader. The stone knife, which was bitten by the bat leader's teeth, seemed to be nailed there. No matter how hard Gigu tried, he could not pull it out. Ta, Wei and the others, who were attacking at the same time, were directly hit by the bat leader's wings before they could get close. Dai, who had swung the hammer twice, was hit on the wall of the pit, and his whole body was embedded in the wall. If it were not for his strong body, he would have been directly smashed into a meat patty. Ao, who had thrown Xiao Xian out, went to the side, and the totem power in his body was instantly mobilized to the peak state. With a twist of his wrist, the spear in his hand rotated at a high speed, and the flowing air became sharp, tearing the surrounding poisonous miasma, and piercing directly toward the bat leader's neck. However, the long spear in Ao's hand did not touch the side neck of the bat leader. Instead, it was pinched by the strange-looking wing claw. It used an even more powerful force to stop the swift and violent attack. Ao only felt that the spear in his hand was pulled out by a more powerful force, and the hand holding the stone spear was extremely painful, as if it had been pierced by thousands of hot thorns. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.